Hey everyone, welcome to the intro to episode
44.
My name is Phil.
I'm Chris.
And today we did something different that we don't normally do. We talked about two games in depth, and that is all.
Yeah, we talked about Massive Chalice.
Yep, which is the Double Fine game.
Yep,
And then we talked
isometric, turn-based.
And then we talked about episodic, choice-based game, Life is Strange from Square Enix and Don't Nod Entertainment.
Yep, we talked about episode 1 and 2 pretty in-depth and spoilerific.
Yes.
So we purposely put that at the end of the episode. So if you do not want Life is Strange episodes 1 and 2 spoiled for you, go ahead and leave after we do a mock sign-off.
Yeah, we do a sign-off. We give
so
you all
you
the
know,
details.
like, hey, you got a full episode to listen to between now and Life is Strange if you want to.
Yeah. This episode is a little bit longer than most because we did find out that we had more to say about both games than we initially thought we would. So, bear with us if you don't like long podcasts.
Yep.
We're just breaking into chunks. But we will see you next week with a regular episode from This Isn't Fun Anymore podcast. Signing off.
Yeah, definitely.
Need to buy it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, if it's minute to win it or whatever, I can play
just
it for
hand
a week
to me.
and then I can give it to you.
Would you need to replay it to talk about it?
I'd play it like one time just so I could jot some notes down or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, obviously I know what it's like now, but if I was going to go in-depth
talk about it for an hour.
Yeah, I might need to take some notes about the tissue pulling contest.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 43.
That's
podcast.
risky. Let's just welcome to the episode. I'm Chris.
And I'm Phil. This is episode
44.
Okay.
Today is our episode-specific episode.
Yes.
I don't know. Episode-specific episode.
If you're new here, we are super great at naming things.
Yep.
Both the name of the episode, the games that we make up to play here on the podcast.
Yep.
Just our talking abilities are great in general.
Names of us.
So if you're new here, enjoy. Two guys stumble through articulation.
Yep. Today, this is not the intro, but we're going to talk. It's going to pretend to be the intro.
Yeah. So I will just say I will talk about a couple games before we get into the meat of the episode.
Okay.
But the majority of the episode, as promised, is going to be an in-depth talk about Massive Chalice.
Yep. Which is free this month, June.
Yep.
You still have a couple days when this goes up to download it. If what you hear from us, if you haven't played it yet, is something that sounds like you would enjoy, get it on Xbox One while you can. It's free. Otherwise, it is $20 on Steam currently.
Yeah. And then we will talk about the first two episodes of Life is Strange, the Square Enix episodic story decision choice-based tornado simulator.
Tornado simulator.
Yeah.
Extra tornadoes.
Yeah. But I guess before we get into that,
okay,
I got a couple of short games I'm playing. If you're interested.
Yeah. I'm always interested.
First one is Evolve.
Never heard of it. Is this a new game?
It is a new game. It released a new free DLC, which is the Arena game type and game mode. So what it is normally if you're playing a match, there's different game types, but if you're just playing a normal match, a hunt match, the hunters get thrown, they drop off the dropship, they have to basically play hide and go seek, trying to track down this monster. Once you get to the monster, then there's usually a fight ensues or he runs away. But for Arena, everybody starts, the monster, all the hunters start in a small closed-in dome. So you're right into the fight.
Yeah.
So if you're playing like the matchmaking, I think the monster is stage 2 with half of his armor. So there's 3 stages, and so stage 2, half your armor is halfway through where you would be. So normally if you fight the monster when he's stage 1, the hunters have the advantage. If you fight him when he's stage 3, the monsters have the advantage. So this is really just right in the middle, so it's supposedly as
even
balanced
playing
as
field.
it can be. But it's just the core of the fighting action gameplay. So if you don't want to have to sit around maybe tracking a monster for 10-15 minutes while he gets stronger, this is just like, hey, I want to spend, 5 minutes just shooting the monster in
I
the
don't
face
have
as much as
15 minutes.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I'm saying that's probably how long the match is going to last, if that. So it was fun. I tried it out. I played it against the computer. Because I could.
Okay.
Because I wanted to try it out. But yeah, like it's fun. It just gets into the heart of the fun. Like it's fun to track the monster, and if you're the monster, it's fun to hide and all this other stuff. And it's fun to maybe sneak up and grab one of the hunters when he doesn't know you're there. But yeah, if you're just about the action, if you're only other game you play is like a Call of Duty or something, and you need to just jump in and shoot something in the face right away.
Yeah.
If you have no patience. This is
the mode for you.
This is the mode. Like you get to. Because it's you're constantly in this bubble too, is like the monster can't at any point run away. Sometimes like you'll fight the monster 3 or 4 times in a match before he actually goes down. But this is like you're fighting to the finish. Either he kills all you kill all them. The hunters cannot respawn like they can in the other game modes. Usually if you can get knocked down but not out. And then if you get fully killed in the other game modes, there's like a 2-minute timer where another dropship will bring you back into the fight. This is if you die, you're dead.
Okay.
So it's nice that it's a free DLC. I got all the achievements in like one sitting.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a draw for anybody else. But just a note. But it's the only one that it was harder to get was be eaten by the monster in arena.
Be eaten?
Be eaten by him. The monster can eat you to get health and to get armor.
Okay.
And so he has to not only kill you, but like then devour you. So that took some working.
I mean, if that's just luck, I would hope. If the computer's controlling the monster.
If you play the computer, yeah. I mean, I guess it's technically luck anyways if you're playing humans.
Unless you got a group together and you told, like, hey, Tim, are you the monster?
No, it's super easy to boost these things, but on their own, they're harder to do. But yeah, like the monster has the ability to, like I said, eat your body to get some armor. But the thing is, he can't do that while 3 other hunters are shooting him.
Yeah.
So you have to be in a situation where you've been separated from your group somehow, even though it's a small area. But everything else, it was like, win as a monster, win as a hunter, win 25 times. All those sort of things I did pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw you get all, like, they all just popped up.
Well, the problem was I got them the day they came out. So on TA, the TA score is equivalent to the gamer score.
Yeah.
And then like the next day,
they
all went up like 3,000 points, TA points, which was fine, except that we were in the TA contest. So then when the weekly reset happens, every time it goes down now, it's negatively affecting my next week's score. So luckily it really hasn't gone down that much. And I've been able to combat it with some other new games to sort of even that out. But that's always the risk of playing a game.
Playing a game that's not 20 years old, like me. Like, I don't get negatives, because no one's playing Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
No, if anything, you get positives, because 1 or 2 new people play the game, and so then your ratio goes up.
Oh.
But yeah, so the other game then that I played, to help with that gamer score too, was Halo 3 ODST. I briefly talked about it a few weeks ago, but I played through the entire campaign now.
Okay.
And I just really like this game. I kind of forgot how much I enjoyed the game. It's certainly different than the main trilogy, or even I guess the 4 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was made after Halo 3. It was actually, I think the whole entire game was made in 18 months because they originally had a spin-off planned for to be paired with Peter Jackson's Halo movie. So Peter Jackson had been working with them for over a year developing a Forerunner game that was supposed to take place before any of the games and be paired with the movie. Obviously, when the movie deal fell through, so did the deal for this game.
Yeah.
So they had 18 months left before they were contractually obligated to ship a Halo game for Microsoft. And so this is what they came up with. And it is you play as the rookie, you're part of ODST, you're supposed to go down, you're supposed to drop into this giant Covenant carrier that's in the middle of New Mombasa City in Africa, but instead it jumps, through space and time while it's in the city, causes this explosion, it knocks your pod out, you get knocked out, you wake up 6 hours later, it's now nighttime, the city is controlled by the Covenant, and you have to semi-stealthily find your way back to your squad.
Yeah.
And as you're exploring the city, so the cool thing about this game that's completely different, one, you have a visor mode. So it's kind of like almost like night vision, but what it does is it highlights objects and enemies around you. So like, everything mainly will be like outlined in yellow, but then the enemies will be outlined in red, and then your friendlies are green. And it's fun to just see the different to look at the level with both the visor on and off. The game is actually very beautiful if you play with it with the visor off, but it's kind of hard, especially in dark areas. You're required to use the visor.
Yeah, it's the Batman
exactly detective
vision.
Yeah,
it's like you could play through it without it and it looks a lot better. But at the same time, if you want to find
need
out
the
where all those
functionality
enemies are.
of that vision. But on top of that is you have a silenced pistol and a silenced SMG. So, in theory, you can sort of semi-stealth these areas. So what you're in the city of New Mombasa, and it is just this hub world. It is after like a mission or two, the entire map is opened up to you, and you can free roam around it. And you're searching for clues to find your squad. But it's fun to just see, like, you can go in all these different areas, you can access all these points, like, right away.
Yeah.
And there's like, little squads of Covenant that are patrolling the city. Sometimes there's scripted moments, sometimes there's random events, sometimes you can hide and just let a patrol pass, sometimes you can use your stealth pistol, like take out a couple grunts and then like knock out the brute or something. Like, it's fun, interesting gameplay that doesn't really exist in the main Halo franchise. Also, because it is this open hub world, you can set your waypoints for the different things on there, but if you just stumble across a clue, you can go into that mission no matter what order it is. So like, you can, wherever you find stuff, you can play. Like, there's no really set.
There's no like
points.
You have to go mission 1 to mission 2, mission 3. It's
right.
Like, there's 5 missions on the map, but maybe you accidentally stumble upon mission 10. You could just play mission 10.
Exactly. And so what you do is when you find one of these clues is it then goes into a flashback from one of your squad members of how that item got there. So you go to 6 hours earlier during the day and you play through as your other squad member. So you play through as all the different squad members in this game. And then you go right back to the hub world, and then you go. And once you find it once you find all the pieces, you find all the clues, then you're reunited, of course, with your squad, and then you do a couple missions with them. But I like the game. And I don't want to get too into it, just because it's a game that came out 6 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
So people kind of know about it. But I mean, the main draw for this game for me was originally the firefight mode that they created for this game that went on to Reach, but they didn't transfer that over to the Halo Master Chief Collection. So they redid the campaign for like an apology sort of for the people that bought the game early on and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so they just redid the campaign, which is, I mean, it's fine. They gave you a whole new game
for free
on top of a collection that already had so much.
Not enough.
And
I need the Nathan Drake collection as free too.
Yeah. And another thing that I had mentioned before is like it's just fun to play with, like, you feel like you're those characters when you're playing their characters because they're constantly talking to each other, to the other characters, like as you're playing as them.
Yeah, it's not just silent protagonist,
right.
John Halo.
Right.
It's like now it's just like, oh, your character has a personality.
Yeah, they all have personalities. They all have their specialty. Like, there's a pilot, there's like a heavy weapons guy, there's like, the sniper. There's like you get to play with the different weapons, the different personalities, the different game types. And there's like this one level called Data Hive, which is one of the last levels, which I just like so much. I just like the visual look of it. I like the feel of it. If I were to just describe it, it sounds like, okay, that's a very basic, kind of even old school level design. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, I just really like it. I'm not going to talk about it until you play it because I know you have it.
Okay. Maybe someone will suggest that is the game for me to play.
Yeah.
Of course, then you've just played it, so.
Well, yeah, but I can play it again, and I can certainly talk about it since it's fresh in my mind. Plus, there's achievements that I have not gotten yet for this game, so okay. I'll go back and finish those things up. I will say one of the most annoying achievements for me, though, getting the first time I played through it right now, was play an entire mission without using the visor mode. And normally that would be fine because a lot of the day missions you don't need it. But visor in this game is mapped to the X button.
So when you're normally like trying to
reload?
Right? Yeah.
So like every like shooter basically now, and especially coming from playing thousands of hours of Destiny to jumping into this, every time I shoot my weapon I press X then.
Yeah.
So I eventually got used to pressing RB to reload, which was what Halo 3 was like also. But what kept catching me was getting in and out of vehicles is also X in Destiny. And so I would play for, 15, 20 minutes, then not pressing the X button because I wouldn't need to reload that way. Then I would hold X to try to get out of a thing.
And he'd put his visor on like a dumbass.
So it had that was the only thing that I had to consciously be like, okay, I need to get this.
Put a big piece of paper over it that says no.
Yeah, there was some decent achievements for the original ODST, but 343 Industries, who didn't create that game, came up with new ones for the Master Chief Collection, and most of those are kind of stupid.
Well,
I think I mentioned it. They're all time trials, point trials, all that other stuff. Plus, every collectible you pick up, every audio file. Oh, that's another thing I didn't talk about before. So, there is, without getting into the story, the superintendent, which is this AI that runs all the basic facilities of the city, like stoplights and signs and sirens, all that stuff. He's kind of helping you and guiding you along the way. But he also is there's collectibles in the game, and they're audio files from this other story that took place earlier, 6 hours earlier. So you'll be going somewhere, there'll be a car horn going off. There's a collectible nearby, so you'll go and search. You'll pick up a payphone, and it'll play audio of something that already happened. So there's actually a really deep, interesting story that's told over, I think it's 30 audio files. And if you go into your visor, actually, it'll show stills also from security cameras. So it's kind of like a moving comic, so to speak. But a lot of people that played the game back when it came out too said that was the best part of the game, was the story that they told in these audio files.
Cool. So actually audio files that are worth picking up.
And it's fun the way that you get them too, because like I said, you'll just be exploring the city, and then you'll notice one of these signs that the superintendent will sort of point you towards a certain area. Then 15-meter radius, I know there's probably a collectible around here, and so then you go and find it, and then you find the story. And because it's random as far as what you have, there's 30 places that will give you a collectible, but then they'll play in what order you get them at. Obviously, it's not collectible 30 is always at this payphone or
So you still get them in the correct order.
Yeah, so it's
just you might not find them
right. You don't have to follow a walkthrough to make sure you get all the story. All you have to do is keep exploring, and if you hit all the points, you'll get all the things you need to.
Okay. Making the game sound fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's certainly different. It divided the audience a lot from the people that were coming from a Halo 3 blockbuster action movie to a slow, subdued, all the music is much more sort of blues. There's saxophone in it. And you're in a dark city at night that's raining, that's been overrun by the enemy, so it's a different mood than a super soldier Master Chief.
Yeah.
That's a human tank that can destroy an entire army on his own. But yeah, I would recommend it. And then the only other little thing I played was the next downloadable character for Mortal Kombat X came out, Tanya. She was the one I'm the least excited for.
Yeah.
She's from Mortal Kombat 4. She had a role in the MKX story. But the reason I'm not excited for her is because she's just kind of boring. Visually, the character design, I think, is not great. And I don't know about her backstory or anything, or really even care. And her moveset, actually, playing as her, it was okay. It was fine. Her different variants are, she has projectiles she throws. She has, I don't entirely remember. I think she has a sword or something. But the one that was the most different was she has like a spear that she can like. There's like a stance you can get, and basically the only new variant moves for that variation is like she jumps in the air and then puts the spear down on the ground, and then she's like perched on top of the spear, and then she can do a move out of that. She can do like a stab or a swing or something like that. But that just seeing her like jump up in the air and then like balance on top of the spear is one, very funny, and two, very different than anything else that's in the game. Other than that, though, I would say, unless if you're a huge Tanya fan, which I don't know if there's a lot of people out there, even though supposedly she was the most fan-requested character, and that's why they put her in as DLC. But people are stupid.
Yeah.
That might have been the vocal minority, as usually is the case on the internet. I would say don't. If you don't have the pack for all of them, don't get her as a standalone. Her fatalities are pretty basic. Like, she's got high heels on because all the females do for some reason. She basically steps on your chest and then steps on your face and then steps out. Then I forgot what the other one was. It's similarly just like kind of boring.
Yeah.
And then like her X-ray is not a copy of somebody else's X-ray, but each one of the moves is very similar to something else that you would have already seen. So there was nothing that original. Like, she doesn't use any of her super abilities or things that make her unique. Like when other characters use their supers, it's cool. Like Scorpion using his spear or something, like that's always fun. So it's just basically she hits in the face, she breaks her neck, she throws her down on the ground. So I don't know. There's not really any selling points for her.
No, I mean, then I think you're probably going to run into that with maybe if they keep releasing DLC, is eventually they're just going to be like, yeah, I mean, we've already done a lot of animation. Let's just kind of cobble something together.
Yeah. But the best part about that DLC release was it also came with the classic skins pack. So now you can have classic skins for, I'm pretty sure it's Liu Kang, Sonya, and Kano. So they're not listed as classic with the K like the Sub-Zero or the Reptile one, which is like a free release. They're listed as Mortal Kombat 1. So I don't know if they were just saying like, hey, because they've been in every game, so classic doesn't really cover it because 2 and 3 are classic at this point.
Yeah.
So I think they were just differentiate, hey, this is the costume for this game. But then people are like, oh, are they going to come out with costumes now for each one of the games? I guess they do leave themselves that opportunity if they want to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wouldn't expect it if I was a fan.
Yeah, that's a shitload of costumes.
Yeah.
I want just Sonya Mortal Kombat 8.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay.
Yeah, alright.
So yeah, but I am looking forward to the next one, whether it's Predator or Tremor. I'm obviously more excited for Predator.
Isn't Rain still supposed to come?
Yeah, well, like Rain and Sindel and some other characters are going to be like the story DLC pack, but that's coming out later. The combat pack, which is like the season pass, gets you Jason, Tanya, Tremor, and Predator.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there's going to be other DLC after that. Also, this isn't really, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but there's like a Mortal Kombat tournament that's going on, and there's going to be another one going on. But if you buy their specific skins from the store, the money goes towards that. Like if you buy I think it's called like the Blue Steel Sub-Zero skin, those $2 that you spend on the skin then goes into the pot. And I think it's 100% of it goes into the pot for whoever wins that tournament. So that's pretty cool. That makes me feel better about if I were to buy one of these skins.
Is that some kid who's trained his whole life will get that extra $2?
Yeah, well, it's not like, hey, you're charging me $2 for something that probably took you 30 seconds to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously better than just going to like, hey, we're keeping that money.
Yeah. Having said that, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, well. as long as you get it out there.
Yeah.
So now they know what to expect.
But now that we're all here, kids, let's get into what we promised, which was Massive Chalice.
Yes.
So I don't know how we're going to tackle this. This is a whole new game corner for us, a whole new segment.
Yeah. So we'll probably bumble our way through this
as usual.
Massive Chalice is a Double Fine Productions game. It was kickstarted
and finished.
While the Broken Age thing was going on. They actually had this out there at the same time. It is, for those unfamiliar and for those who I apparently want a refresher.
Yeah, because you did talk in depth about it when you played it originally.
Yeah. And I remember saying that I liked it back then, so I think I'm ahead of everyone else.
Okay.
Isometric, turn-based, board game, strategy,
Yeah, if you don't know
RPG.
what an isometric game is, it's the combat is you are on like one map.
Yep.
You're seeing things from a top-down perspective. You have control over a squad, an army, or whatever.
Yeah.
And if they're all like massive chalices, they're turn-based, so you move one of your characters. He has a certain a radius of which he can move. Like, hey, you can move this guy up to 6 spaces, or you can move him up to 8 spaces, but then you can't use an action sort of thing. So, like, you have your move and you have your action. And so it usually goes, I think, it's like, okay, you move all of your pieces, then the enemy moves all of his pieces, and so on and so forth.
Yes. I guess to talk about this game, we'll just try and start at the beginning.
Yeah. And another aspect of this game, just to give an overall impression, the other half I would say is you're managing a kingdom.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of small features in that.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, well, let's do you want to just get into specifics then?
Let's start at the beginning,
okay.
And then we'll just kind of do specifics as we hit them.
Okay.
So at the very beginning, the loose plot is that a talking massive chalice,
a giant goblet with probably holy water or something in it.
Let's say holy water. Essentially is giving you instructions that says that, hey, you are kind of the overseer. You are going to live forever. There is this kingdom that you're looking over. It's got maybe like 8, let's say, is it 8, 9?
Roughly, yeah, let's say 8 to 10. Yeah.
Around it. You are managing that kingdom. There's a group of, they're called the Cadence. What they are is they're the enemies, aliens or whatever you want to call them, just creatures. And they are trying to corrupt the world and make them evil.
Uh-huh.
Those are your bad guys. The Chalice has the power to cleanse the world of the Cadence, but it is going to take 300 years for them to power up and cleanse it.
Right.
The years happen in basically timeline fashion, and during that time, everything else is happening. So in that 300 years...
so as the player, your role is to deal with the kingdom. You're supposed to protect and manage this entire kingdom while the Chalice is powering up, basically.
Because the Chalice is in one of your territories, and essentially the belief is that
in the middle,
if the Cadence gets the Chalice, then the Chalice cannot destroy the Cadence.
Of course,
the world is lost.
Yeah.
So that's why you're tasked with protecting this little territory.
But at the same time, if you don't do a good job of managing your kingdom, they have nothing to save anyways.
Yeah, true.
So...
So that is the story.
Yeah.
You are... What category should we talk about? Let's go combat. You are thrust into, in the very beginning...
Because, I guess, as far as the game goes, that's one of the first things it teaches you is, okay, how do I deal with combat?
So, you get to see what combat's like first, before you manage your kingdom.
Yeah.
When you set up the game, you are given some options.
Yeah.
And we'll try and be brief and succinct.
When are we going to get into specifics? That's what I want to know. Right after this?
We can get into specifics whenever.
Or should we this is how combat works, and then we talk about combat specifically forever?
We already talked about combat and how it works. It's the turn-based stuff. So we're only going to get into specifics now.
Okay.
But I would say you get to pick basically if you want the game to either give you a random starting point of characters or a balanced one. Which one did you pick?
Random.
Yeah, I picked random too. I think
so did you have the choice of picking serious or funny names?
Yeah. I picked both.
I picked both as well.
Funny, and both.
Yeah. It's usually funnier when there's a serious and then funny last name.
Yeah. And then there's one more option which doesn't matter too much, but there's Iron Mode, which is there's one save. It saves after every turn you make. You can never load. And I turned on Iron Mode.
I will say that I'm glad that when we were talking about the achievements a couple episodes ago, and you said, hey, Iron Mode auto saves all the time, I remember you said that because I had played for 6 hours and had not manually saved because I forgot that I needed to.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, oh yeah, you said Iron Mode saves all the time, must mean it's not saving right now.
Yeah.
So then I went into the save game and like I saw that it was all blank. I was like, oh Jesus.
Yeah, your thing would have froze.
Yeah.
Okay, so combat. We both start with a random group.
Yeah.
Why don't you take over for that?
Okay. So the group that I got stuck with. So I think from what I understand is that there's 3 main groups of fighters that you can have.
Yes.
You have 5 of them, right? You have up to 5.
Yep.
And they are either like an archer known as a
hunter. They're the hunters.
Hunter.
Yep.
Yeah. And I guess trick shot would be the variant.
Yeah, trick shot's a variant.
So you have a hunter, you have an alchemist who has like a sort of Wolverine type hand blade that he can use. Also, their big draw is they can throw vials of things.
Yeah.
So they have both the ranged and the melee attack. And then you have the Caberjacks, right, which basically they have giant like logs as if they were going to break down a door.
Yep.
But so they're 100% melee.
Yes.
They have more health and armor and all that stuff, but they're 100% melee. I got stuck with I think 4 archers, but they were all nearsighted.
Yeah.
And so they could not hit anybody, right?
That sucks.
And so the first map I got was the one where it has like, I think they're called like ruptures or something. Those little guys that just run up to you, and if they're close to you, they explode. Yeah. Not only do they explode and do area damage, but they leave corrosive acid behind, which will continue to do damage to you. So because I had archers that couldn't hit anything, and because I didn't fully understand the movement of characters yet, all I would do was run up to their faces trying to shoot them, and then I would miss even if I was touching them, and then they would explode and kill all my guys. So I think I beat the tutorial because I think you have to, right? But
you can lose.
Well, I think I won.
Very tough.
I think I won the tutorial, but after that, I think the next 3 or 4 battles I lost. I just got destroyed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the right things. Later on, I realized that archers are the best. You want all archers if possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like really on to the Caberjacks because I was like, they're the only ones that are actually hitting anybody.
I hate the Caberjacks.
Oh, like after playing the game for more than an hour, I will not have them in my kingdom. I will breed them out of existence if I could. Alchemists are okay.
Yeah.
They're second to archers.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you can have 5 archers, go with 5 archers.
Yeah, and that's I will say my team makeup was 3 alchemists and 2 Caberjacks. I didn't have a single archer.
Yeah.
And then when I eventually got to my town, I didn't have an archer ever. I didn't even have an archer to breed.
Yeah.
So I was ixnayed on archers until later. But yeah, I mean, like what I played, like first the bad guys. There's the seeds, which are just these little things,
little minions. They just kind of run up,
headbutt
you because they don't have arms, right?
Yeah, they're like they're the training dummies.
Yeah.
Then there's the ruptures, which you talked about.
Yeah.
Which are, I think, out of all the enemies I've faced,
I hate them so much.
They're the worst because you melee them. You can't.
No. Because if you hit them too, they'll explode and die and kill you.
There's no amount of damage that you can do that does not cause them to explode.
Right.
So you can't. The only way you can melee them is that the Caberjacks have a knockback attack, which if it lands, it does damage and then pushes the thing away from you.
Right, but at the beginning of the game, you don't have that anyways. I don't think.
You don't.
Yeah.
No. So then it's essentially like, and you still have to land that attack.
Right.
And kill them. So it's a risky move. Then after them, then there's the ghost things, which are like, these are the first 3 enemies you run into.
Yeah.
And the ghosts are, I can't remember what they're officially called, but I'm just going to refer to them as the ghosts.
Yeah, they're ghosts, spirits, I don't know.
If they hit you, they take experience away.
Which is, it hurts.
It's also very frustrating because you don't have characters for very long in the beginning.
Yeah. And yeah, so leveling up your character is very important, and the way you level up a character and get XP is by killing enemies.
And surviving the mission.
So let's say I kill a Rupture, I think it's something like 60 XP, but I get hit by one Spirit Ghost, and it takes 150 XP away from me.
Yeah.
And so, that hurts, especially when I'm pretty sure they can shoot in a straight line. So if you got two guys lined up, it can hit both of them.
Both. Yeah, they can. Here's how I really like the combat system. Just because this is my type of game. But yeah, like you said, like initially there was
a learning curve for me.
Yeah.
For sure. One, because I got stuck with a bad team.
Yeah.
And two, like I said, just the movement. Once I figured out how to move properly, like, hey, don't always move to the white radius, which is the maximum of moving. Because I'd move, and then the enemies would just kill me without ever me attacking. So like, if you move there's a smaller radius right around you, it's like, okay, you got 3-4 spots to move, then you can also take an action, which is either, fire your weapon, heal yourself, do a special ability.
Or even move again.
Or move again,
into the top one and then you don't see any enemies.
Which is exactly what I would end up doing. Yeah, is because you can only see a certain distance with your character, you don't know what's on the rest of the map. The rest of the map is all blacked out until you get there. So that's another great point, is a good way to play this game is to move just enough so you can see enemies. Because if I sent, let's say I sent a Caberjack out to his maximum away from everybody else, and he spots an enemy, if maybe that was my last turn or something, my last character to move, then the enemy gets to go. And what if there's 4 or 5 enemies, they will just bum rush that one guy and they will die forever.
Yeah, we should, so the two things about characters that we kind of touched on is that they get personality traits. Each character is essentially assigned what is a random personality trait.
At first,
Yeah, you can have a guy who's puny, where he doesn't do a lot of damage. You can have nearsighted, which you have is obviously his vision's impaired and he's got lower accuracy.
Yeah.
Then you can obviously have positive things. There's stuff like Pack Hunter, where if you're traveling in a big group, you kind of get a boost to your stats.
Yeah.
Lone Wolf, which is if you're traveling by yourself, you get a boost to stats. I had a character who was asthmatic, which
me too. If you make him run too much, he starts losing health.
He starts losing health.
Yeah.
I had a character who had heart disease.
Yeah.
So he had a very short life cycle.
Right.
There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah. If you spend the time to go into the little character and look at all his traits, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it actually plays more into the managing the kingdom side that we'll get to. But yeah, you'll have ones too. I had a pretty good one where if somebody died, it gave a boost then to everybody else.
Yeah. And then I had one that was complete opposite, where if you see someone
they get mournful or whatever,
then it's just then they're pretty much useless. They're nervous, they get scared easily and stuff like that. But there's a lot of nuance there, which I really like. But what I do like is that whole every match, you never feel you never have the power in the matches. It's kind of how I'd phrase it. It's you are always nervous, at least in my opinion. You're always nervous. Sure. You always have to be super careful. You never get it's never oh, these characters are leveled up and I'm only fighting seeds. I can just fucking run through it. It's always you only have 5 characters. That's always your max, and they always get 10 plus.
Because each character has its own life cycle too. You might, because of battles are separated over lots of years.
Yeah.
It's you might have them for maybe 3 or 4 battles.
Yeah.
And so in those 3 or 4 battles, you've got to make sure you're getting them XP, because if you keep going into battles with level 1 characters, you're not going to be able to kill the enemies, because at some point you're going to be fighting enemies that have higher XP than you. Usually that's the case too. The longer you play the game, the stronger the enemies get as a group.
Yeah.
So they're assuming that you've done a good job resource management wise for your kingdom, that by the time they get into a fight, they're going to be at least level 3 or 4. Even that's recruits for you.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure
you kind of have to set up.
Where I'm in my game, I think the lowest guy that I have is a level 5. He comes in at level 5 because I have the thing set up for training and stuff. And because of that, it always takes now, a couple of hits to kill an enemy. I'm never even I guess maybe the little guys. I'll kill the little guys in one hit.
Yeah, I can kill ruptures in one hit. Yeah. I can kill some of the ghosts in one hit.
But I got to a point where I was above them, so it was super easy, but now it's getting to the point where okay, the enemies now are stronger than I am.
Yeah.
And so I gotta balance that again, where I gotta make sure that I use guys well and for a long time.
You gotta coordinate everyone's attack.
They're like, I gotta get Billy that last shot so he can get the XP for the kill.
I try and do that, and then Billy will be a caberjack and he'll have a glancing blow. Which
glancing blows are the worst.
I have to. So the thing, glancing blow, caberjacks are the only ones that can have them.
Yeah.
And what it is essentially you run up to an enemy. And your guy, whatever, slips on some dry ice, which you can't slip on because it's dry ice. But you swing and you do like 3 damage tops.
Yeah, it's the worst when it's like those little guys, the seeds, because you're like, oh, I could have destroyed you if all I did was make half contact, but instead I took like a 1 away from you.
Yeah, well, glancing blows are the worst too because then your chances are you didn't kill that enemy unless you had 1 hit, and then then your turn's over because you've attacked.
Yeah,
and so that guy is face to face with you.
Exactly, and usually enemies are in groups too, so that means you're within range of all those other enemies.
Yep.
So so if you send a caberjack in there and he gets a glancing blow, which is seemingly random, I'm sure it has to do with some sort of percentages of your traits.
Yeah.
But you don't know. You can't, as a player, figure out what those...
If I was to guess, I find that I glance blow more if I make them sprint up there. Like, if I'm attacking a bad guy that's in the white area and not the orange area, I have that more. And then I think it's, like, personality
I always make sure
traits.
that I'm directly in front of them. I never do it from an angle tile.
Okay.
Because I feel like it happens more at an angle, too. Like, that's the thing. I don't know.
We're just
these
making
are just these are just the strategies that I have. But I also tried to not have caberjacks, if possible.
Yeah, I will say that the first time I played a long, long time ago on a faraway planet, hunters were the best. And they clearly still are, and they have made balance adjustments to try and make hunters not the best.
Not as good, yeah.
They're still super good.
Yeah.
This time, because I was forced, like, alchemists became like, oh, alchemists aren't that bad. Like, they're weak as glass. Like, they have, whatever, like 10 hit points.
Yeah.
They're not meant to be your front line at all.
No. But there are potions that they can throw and stuff really help, especially if you have big groups of enemies, because they have an area effect of everything they do.
Yeah, the vials, the one thing, like, so the alchemists have vials, that's like their main attack, and they also have your close-up, but there's a limit on those. So you only get like 5 throws. It's the same thing, like archers, there's accuracy. There's always accuracy when you're trying to attack somebody.
Yeah, that's another thing, too, is when you highlight an enemy, it'll tell you your percentage of hitting that character.
Yes. What I find with alchemists, the worst is that percentage, if it's not 100%,
is going to miss.
Well, not even that it's going to miss, but like alchemists have this dangerous thing where like if you have guys...
Oh, you can hurt your own guys.
You can hurt your own guys.
Absolutely. I never throw if there's somebody between me, like an alchemist and the enemy. I have to have everybody behind the alchemist, because at least he doesn't throw behind him if he misses. But sometimes he'll throw like to his direct left.
Or he'll throw it at his feet. I've had an alchemist kill himself because he just fucking dropped it.
Yeah.
But like archers, if they miss, I've never had them like hit their own guy.
Yeah.
Caberjacks, if they miss, it's mainly a glancing blow.
But they have that explosion too that you can get, that you can unlock, and that will hurt enemy friendlies.
But then like the alchemist, I've killed half my team before I was playing on iron mode.
Yeah.
Like where, you just have a group set up and you're just like, oh, I can hit the bad guy if he aims it right here and then the bad guy gets hit and my guys don't get hit. Chances are where you aim it is not where it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's a good idea unless it's 100%, but you're probably going to, maybe it's like one tile to the left, one tile to the right, and then you end up, killing half your team or severely damaging them.
Yeah, and the negative part too is usually because they don't have the range of archers, you have to be in distance that the enemy can then attack you. If you miss, the enemy will be able to attack you.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. I mean, the only time like you can do it is if there's hopefully something in the way that's blocking the enemy and you're kind of going over a wall.
But it never, when I try to throw over stuff, that's when I always miss. Even if it says like 100% or like 95%, that's when it like, not completely misses, but it'll be like off to the left some.
Yeah.
Because I always try to put like a rock or a wall between me and it. So like maybe it has to move one extra space to get around it, but...
Doesn't always work.
Yeah.
So we have to get into the actual kingdom stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, let's talk a little bit more about the enemies that you fight.
Okay.
Because there are some interesting ones, I think.
So after the ghost, the next one I ran into is this big green tower thing.
Bulwark, I think they're called.
Yeah, and what it is it's essentially this big beefy guy. It shoots. It's long range.
Yeah. Basically shoots like a mortar cannon sort of thing at you, but out of his body.
After you hit it, it puts it automatically goes into a shell.
Yeah.
Where any other hits only do 1 damage.
Yeah, the next 2 hits that it takes only do 1 damage.
Yeah.
But it also can't move while it has that shell on.
Yeah.
So it either has to wait for you to knock off its shell, which, I mean, it's a benefit to you because you can move around, but it can still shoot at you.
Yep.
Or if it chooses, for whatever reason, to move, it then loses that shell too. So you might get lucky and you might hit it once and it pulls up a shell, but then the next move it moves.
See, I've had it every time I fought one.
Yeah.
Once I hit it with the shell,
it sets in.
At the end of then my turn ends. It has that shell for my whole turn, obviously.
Yeah.
But then once that enemy's turn, it disavows its shell and then attacks me if I don't kill it. So like it's never
been up that long for you?
It's never been up more than like the rest
that
of
turn.
my turn.
Yeah.
So like that's always my thing is like, okay, it has 30 hit points. I did 15. I did a big chunk.
Yeah.
And then I just don't bother. I try and move everyone away from it to make sure that it kind of has to come out and shoot and maybe it misses.
Yeah.
And then the next turn I'll try and kill
That's when I'll like use a weaker character or caberjack or something like that. Because I'm like, hey, you can just run up and hit it to get rid of its shell. Like if I plan it out where, okay, the first move of the turn, I'm going to hit it with an arrow. My strongest guy, so it does like half of its health is gone already. Then it pulls up the shell, so now I got like 2 free hits. So like maybe if I have a caberjack or something that I normally keep at the back of the army, because basically he's just there in case somebody, well, the one character that switches positions with you, if he shows up, then he can hit him.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, just run up caberjack, because I don't. The problem with them is they don't move that far.
No, caberjacks they're slow
and so like if I was moving my army as a group, they would always be behind anyways.
Yeah.
So if I have an excuse to be able to move them up, I take it. So like that, I'll have them run up and get rid of its shell, and then the fourth guy then will completely kill it.
Yeah. I mean, that's better strategy. I mean, I didn't even know that if you hit it so much, its shell falls away.
If you hit it twice, its shell will go away.
I assumed that it was for just one turn.
Yeah.
But that's just me being not smart and super like.
Yeah.
Everyone stay back.
Yeah. Wait for it.
The next enemy I came across was the Wrinkler. I'm not pointing it at.
Okay. He was like one of the last enemies that I came across.
Really?
But yeah.
That was the next one. The next one, which is the Wrinkler, which I think is really kind of cool. Is what it does is it's a close range. It charges at you.
Yeah.
But every time it hits your character, it ages your character 5 years.
Right. And I feel like it says 5 years, but I've looked at it. Sometimes it's more than that.
Is it more than that?
Yeah, just by looking at their stats, because I kept track of I'm like, okay, this person's like 56 years old. They cannot get hit by the Wrinkler.
The last battle I did, which I actually played some before I came over.
Yeah.
A Wrinkler killed a guy or hit a guy, and then he died of old age, and it says
that happened to me once
which
too.
is so frustrating because like he was already on his retirement. He was on his last.
It was his last battle, his last week on the job,
and then he gets hit, and then he dies of old age before I can do anything with him.
And because the problem is that your oldest characters will be the most experienced and the most powerful, so you're more likely to move them up and use them for everything. And so if they're the ones that die, then you're like, ugh. Yeah.
Good old. He was my archer too. I miss him.
Yep.
I miss him
so goddamn much. And if he's in battle, he's not having kids, so you can't pass that on. You can pass on a relic if he had it, but
yeah. What was the enemy then that was the next one that like the super big one? I can't think of the name. Like the big tree. Did you fight that thing?
No. The next one I fought was the guy that spawns enemies that shoots seeds at you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't remember the name of that.
So there's this big sort of like walking plant looking thing, and he can fire the seed enemies at you.
Yeah. So
he's got this long range attack. The seeds will pop up, and then also once you kill him, he will automatically spawn 3 seeds.
Yes. If I remember correctly, he's got a shitload of hit points too, right?
Yup.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can't rush in there to kill him, even if you know he has 1 hit point, because then 3 enemies will spawn right next to you.
Yeah. I remember specifically the first time I fought him, I had a bad drop. I don't know if you've had those when you deploy and you get a bad drop.
Right.
And there was like 2 or 3 around one hero. And I basically just had to be like, that hero's dead. Like,
goodbye.
You can't get out of that because once they take their turn, you're not going to survive like 3 shots.
No, and you can't run away either. So either they can shoot a seed by or next to you, or they can hit you directly, which does so much damage.
Yeah,
much more than a seed would do if it landed next to you.
Yeah, you have to play back the whole time because you can't. If they get close to you, they can decimate the team.
And I don't know if it's supposed to work this way, but it's the only enemy that I've encountered that can shoot at you before you even see it.
I've had other enemies. I've had a ghost.
Before it says spotted?
Yeah, I've had a ghost actually do that. And
okay.
I feel like the enemy spot is just when it's in your line of sight.
And I'm sure they have a different field of view.
And they have a different field of view. But I feel like if an enemy could see me, I should be able to see it. That should kind of be the rule.
Right.
So the fact that I was able to get shot at on the enemy turn without actually knowing that there's an enemy over there I felt a little cheap.
Yeah.
But,
battle's not fair, man.
Have you encountered any other enemies that I'm leaving that we've left off?
I don't know what they're called. The guy that I was talking about that switches places with you, the giant rock monster guy.
I have not fought the giant rock monster.
So there's a giant blue rock monster, and he will switch places with you and one of your heroes. Okay. So when you're fighting them, you basically want to spread out your characters, because usually I have them in a tight formation, moving up the battlefield. But these guys will, even if they're super far away from you, I think you have to be able to see them first, but they will switch places with you. And if they're right in the middle of your formation, they will just Hulk out on a big group of people around you.
Okay. Now I gotta start playing my strategy for when I meet this one.
So, and then you have one of your heroes out in the middle of nowhere, exposed to everybody else. They're all by themselves. They're usually far enough away where, like, even your archers couldn't hit one of the enemies if they came up behind them.
Yeah.
So they're like their job the next few moves are to run back to the group. Like, don't engage any enemies. Just run back as fast as you can. But what's annoying is that the enemy teleporting with you isn't considered its move. It then still gets to attack you.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah.
So then it can teleport and still just basically kill the first character it comes across.
Right.
Oh, man. I would assume that would be its move, and then, like, you get one turn
and then
to
you know,
react.
okay, like, oh, it's all around me, now I gotta shoot. Yeah. No, he teleports, and then he has a full range of running and attacking at you.
That's not... And that's right when you spot him, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's basically its spotted move. Because there's sometimes, like, spotted moves where, like, a character, like, then runs.
Yeah, and he can like, retreat if he wants to or whatever.
His spotted move is teleport, and then his turn.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah.
Any others?
I think so. I know there are. I'm forgetting right now. Do you have any other ones?
No, I mean, like, I am year 170, something around there, and there's, like I said, like, I've encountered all of them but the rock monster that we've listed.
Yeah.
But I know there's got to be new, harder ones that come up, but I just haven't hit them yet.
Yeah, they show up, like, at first, if you go into a certain territory before a fight, it'll be like, hey, these are the three enemies that show up. It started off as like, okay, these are 2 enemies, and now there's 3, sometimes 4.
Yeah.
So I think as you play more, that's when the harder enemies are going to show up.
Which I'm pretty scared enough if I'm just fighting goddamn ruptures.
I hate ruptures so much.
I know, that's the thing, is I've gotten to these harder enemies, and ruptures are still the ones where I'm just like, take that fucking thing out
The
first.
second I see a rupture, yes, I will shoot at him, even if there's a much higher, like, hit point enemy around.
Yeah.
The only exception I would say is maybe if there's a wrinkler. I'm afraid of wrinklers more than anything else because I don't want them to kill my heroes. But usually ruptures actually are the ones that do kill people.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of them aging my heroes to the point where I can't use them anymore scares me.
Yeah, so let's move. We can always come back to combat.
Yeah.
But let's move into the actual kingdom management.
Okay.
So after combat, after you've gotten your initial 5 guys,
yeah.
and you've gone through, you were basically given a keep. Your very first keep, it's on your home square right in the center, and you are given... Yes, correct.
Sorry, I was raising my hand. Just before you get too far, just to sort of transition from combat again. So you have this map that you're dealing with,
yeah.
And every time you have a battle, so basically the cadence, the enemies are working from the outside in.
Yeah.
So each of the little sections then, I think, get hit up to 3 times. You can lose a fight up to 3 times
yes.
in that area, and if you do, it is lost forever.
Yeah. Also, most of the time when a fight comes out, they're invading 2 territories.
Right, so you have to choose.
So you have to choose. The one that you don't
have
choose
you gotten where you have to
automatically
do 3 or
gets
4 at a
elect.
time?
I've had 3.
Okay.
I haven't had 4. But where you essentially, automatically take a hit point.
Yeah.
And then the one you choose, if you win, it goes down a hit point. If you lose, it still goes up. So there's a potential that all of the areas still take a hit point.
Yeah, you can only do one battle at a time. So you have to choose strategically, like, hey, where do I protect? What do I try to save?
Yeah.
And if you lose that battle, you're out of luck anyways, and it takes that hit point.
Yeah.
I've had a kingdom come back before. I have had an area come back before, and I don't know if it was supposed to.
Have a kingdom come back?
Not a kingdom. I meant I had an area that supposedly
was lost. Maybe
came back.
Did something like
maybe I did something cool. Maybe I did one of the special little things that have weird outcomes. Yeah.
But okay, so you get this map of territories. That's what we're kind of looking into.
Yeah.
You have the first thing you start with is a keep. The keep is what its job is.
It's a castle.
It's a castle. Sure. Yeah. Is to create new units. New
heroes.
New heroes.
Yeah.
Because this game takes place over 300 years, the characters age and die like humans would age and die.
Right.
So most characters aren't going to live past 60 or 70. Like that seems like a pretty high level.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. Some are going to die younger. If some die on the battlefield, death is permanent. If you have a favorite hero and it dies for whatever reason, your stupidity or the monster, the character's dead, gone forever. Hopefully a new hero that you love will come along.
Right.
But when you first create a castle, you have to then create who's in charge of the castle and who their mate is.
Right. Yeah, you pick a king or a queen.
Yep.
And then you pick somebody to be their mate.
Yes.
We use the term mate because the sole purpose of pairing people is to have them have babies.
Yes. There's no love. There's no.
Yeah, that is not a stat they give you at all. All they give you is probability of children.
Yeah. What's crazy in terms of how deep this game goes and how I will never get as deep as it is.
Yeah.
Is so first you pick which bloodline you would like to continue. At the start of the game, we kind of forgot to mention this. I don't know if it's the same for Xbox One. I assume it is. You pick five different bloodlines. You get
houses, families, any of that.
These were all the backer rewards on Kickstarter. If you put enough money in, you got to create a bloodline.
That's cool.
You got to give it a motto. You got to give it a logo. You got to give it a name. Also, what the characters say when they kill somebody.
Yeah, they have a house cry, a war cry. So when they kill somebody, your character will have a little text space like "Hurrah!"
Yeah. So those are your bloodlines. The point of the bloodlines is bloodlines can't. You can't marry 2 people in the same bloodline.
Obviously.
So one of this very simple things to think about is that when you're creating all these castles, you don't want all the same bloodline. Because then when it comes down to...
When somebody dies, then you're in trouble.
Yeah,
you can't continue the bloodline anymore.
When you're replacing dead people, you can't have a woman from, let's just say, House Johnson marry another House Johnson. Because then it's inbred and it's bad.
Yeah, I'll also say there's no gay marriage in this game.
There is. You can have gay marriage, but they
can't have
kids.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you're right. I forgot that it actually would let you do that.
Yeah,
but
you can even have no mate. You can select no mate.
Yeah, just let them slowly die.
So the 3-pronged thing is first your goal is to everything good?
Yeah.
Is to create a kid. You pick 2 people. The higher the experience, the more experience they pass down to their children. Also, the traits that they can pass down. So if you have 2 characters with the puny trait, chances are you're going to pass down the puny trait.
Right, there's no guarantee. You're not going to continue to have the same person. It's still supposedly random as far as, like a Gen X would be in real life.
Yeah, it's
they're more likely to have these traits, or they might have traits that are similar to them.
Yeah, and the third one, and probably the second most important over probability of having kids, is what class that is going to be trained that come to this keep.
Yeah.
So when you have a kid, they essentially become immediately trainees where they're born. This is where the game, I think, kind of gets a little more in depth, is that you pick 2 classes. Let's say you have if you have 2 Caber Jacks marry, they're
Yeah.
going to train Caber Jacks.
Right.
2 of anything is just going to equal that thing.
Of course.
But any 2 mixes creates a hybrid class.
Sort of a variation on,
Which they still pick one of the 3 classes. So, for one, like an alchemist and
a Caber Jack.
And a Caber Jack is a blast capper.
Blast capper, yeah.
And what it is is it the Caber Jack with the alchemist abilities?
It's the Caber Jack with like explosive abilities, basically. So like you can, when you hit him with the Caber Jack, it can create an area effect.
Yeah. So and an alchemist with a hunter creates a brutalist, I think it is.
Yeah.
And what it is it's an alchemist that can then start throwing
lots of things.
Lots of other
including
things.
They can throw healing items, which I don't usually do, but
no, I don't even usually have healing items.
Yeah.
So those are things that you kind of start to now you have to build, like, what do you want your future army to look like?
Yeah.
It's very easy, and I've ran into this problem multiple times, is to not pay attention to that.
Yep.
And
paint yourself in a corner.
And then you paint yourself in a corner. Maybe you have too many Caber Jacks, which you find aren't useful for bad guys.
Right.
Maybe you essentially breed out a useful thing like a hunter or an alchemist, because you create the hybrids of the alchemist and the hunter, but never like a pure hunter.
Right.
And then, you're always having these alchemists that can throw healing items, which is great, but you're never just having a guy who can shoot at distance. Once you pick that is the keep. There's nothing else to do at that keep.
Except for, wait for them to have babies.
Yep.
If they do, great. Then you got some new trainees.
Yep.
If not, or when they inevitably will die,
you have to replace them.
must replace them.
Yeah, which is very great to take a 70-year-old woman who's in charge and then give her a 21-year-old man with high sperm count.
Exactly, yeah, because it tells you everybody's fertility.
Yeah.
And then their likelihood of having children.
Yeah. And you're just like, you're 70, just keep pumping out kids.
I paired a 72-year-old with a 78-year-old, and they had 4 kids before they died.
Wow. That's good on them.
Right? As soon as it happened, I'm like, what? Because he was like, baby, 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 baby. And I went in and I looked at it. I was like, oh, my God. And so I'm like, I got to save this right away. That's never going to happen yet. So I saved it, and I went back and did it again, and they didn't have any kids.
Yeah.
So I just got lucky.
Yeah. But so I don't know how you do it. My first thing I'm looking at is fertility.
Yeah, I only match if they have high fertility. I will sometimes go to where it says like they have like average fertility or whatever.
Yeah, non-average.
If their possibility of children is still like super high is what it says. But I really care more about whatever they're gonna have kids of. Like if they're gonna be super high fertility and have lots of Caber Jacks, I don't really care.
Yeah.
That's less important to me. But I do use the Caber Jacks for the other things that are not in battle, the other placements that you can put characters in. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Is there any more talk on the keep?
I
mean, like, what the keep...
So the thing with the keep is, just in general, going through this game, I was kind of going through all the motions, but not understanding the big picture until a little while into the game. On their own, they're simple things.
Yes.
But then when you add everything up, like talking about it seems very complicated. And I remember the first time you explained everything.
Yeah.
Everything you said to me stuck in my mind, but I didn't understand it until I played it myself.
Yeah.
So I would recommend even playing this game for a little while until you get the hang of it, and then starting a new kingdom.
Yes.
Because
I would agree wholeheartedly.
I made a couple of mistakes early on that would have really helped me out if I would have just gone back and done it again.
Yeah,
just after knowing how to do it one time.
Play to year 100.
Yeah.
And then just start over. Because everything that you've gained from year 100, I mean, granted, all your characters are going to start fresh, but then you're going to know what to do. Like, that's...
Yeah.
I agree. Like, you definitely just have to jump in, get your feet wet, make a lot of mistakes, and then just go, like, well, this isn't going to be my real attempt at the win. I mean, the problem with that is I always get to that point.
I can do better.
That's the thing, is I play it till like 150, and I'm always just like, fuck, I don't have any hunters. I could do better. And then I want to start over, and then the beginning's so easy and fun and free, and then I get to the end, and I'm just like, oh boy.
Because there is still randomness involved in it, in everything. So both in like when people live and die, like what special missions you get, special events.
Yeah.
So like I got to a point where I had figured out that I really liked hunters.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any left. The bloodlines kind of ran out.
Yeah.
So what I did was I spent my next X amount of opportunities for research to have people go out and just find new recruits in the world.
Yeah, that's a good.
Until I built up my archers again, and then I bred them back in.
Yeah, and those are the things that's kind of like fun to play around with as you're playing God.
Right. Well, that's the reason I said it like that was because my point was if you mess up, you don't have to start over. It's not going to end your game. Like I'm still playing in the first game that I started with, and I found ways to still accomplish most of my goals. So don't think like, hey, if you make one mistake, you're done for the next 300 years.
I will say there are some big mistakes that will just mean like you're probably not going to hit 300. Like the very, very, very first time I played is I had 3 out of 4 keeps making caber jacks and 1 making alchemist. This was before they even had the splits.
Hybrids, yeah.
So I was fucked. I mean, like fighting like nothing but ranged bad guys, and you just have guys that only can run up there and hit. Like that's a big mistake.
Other than the seeds, there's no melee enemies other than the ruptures, and you don't want to be anywhere near them when they die.
Well, and wrinklers, and you don't want to be that close to them either.
Yeah.
But so yeah, okay. You get the keep, and then you are basically told there's a thing of research stuff.
Yeah.
You get this whole. You go to the Chalice. The Chalice can use some of its power that's not using to do this cleanse to research certain things. These research takes years. It tells you how long. It tells you how fast the research is in terms of things.
Yeah.
You can build more keeps, which then means you can place it on a tile that doesn't have a keep, and that's a new bloodline. And then essentially more units, because more babies equals more trainees, which then grow up into people, blah, 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 blah. You can also do simple things like there's weapon upgrades, armor upgrades, there's quote-unquote nation upgrades, which are really useful, but they take a little bit more time, which are things like, the first nation one, and I don't know if it's the same, if it's always, but it's just like any recruit you get gains immediately 2 levels.
Yeah.
So that's something like, I want everyone to start at level 3. That's a really good one, so then you're not just breeding ones.
Yeah, one of the nation upgrades I had too was like, hey, every time they go out and recruit, since I was doing that a lot, like they come back with like 50% more people.
Yeah. And then there's things where you can adopt a baby girl, adopt a baby boy, or just recruit from essentially the townsfolk.
Yeah.
The reason, and to just touch on briefly, the reason you'd want a girl or a boy is because obviously maybe you have a kingdom full of boys, but you need to continue the bloodline in the future.
Yeah.
You need to like very specifically like I need to make sure I get some girls.
Right. And that's what happened to me. I got stuck where I had all girls and there was only one boy, and he wasn't a great match for that kingdom, but I had to do it because it's that or kill off the bloodline.
Yeah. And that's like the baby genders are completely random when they're just having kids, like in real life. So it's just like this guarantees you one of the sexes that you might need.
Yeah.
Touching on briefly, when you have a kid, they age once they hit 15.
I think it's like 18. It might be 16. I think it's 18 now.
I think it's on battle.
I've never got. I thought you were talking about when they can have kids.
Oh no, well yeah, I think in battle, I think 16. They can join the fights, and when 18 is they can start having kids.
Yeah.
But you can put a baby in charge, just so everyone's clear.
Yeah, you can have the baby be the king of your castle.
Yeah, I've had that happen where to continue a very specific bloodline.
Yeah.
The only people that could continue that bloodline were all underage.
But you just have to wait until they get old enough to start
breeding
them.
I put like a 13-year-old in charge, and then I eventually had to pair it with like a 22-year-old, and it's just like, hey man, I'm sorry, like this is your life.
Yeah.
But going back to the research stuff, so you get the keep, you can create a keep, you can create a thing called a crucible.
Yeah, but sorry, just to go back to the research real quick, you have to appoint 3 sages. Do you have to do that?
You don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that.
So, okay, well, let's do
I don't know. I know, well, you don't have to, but you get benefits from that, right?
Yeah, so, like, you can build a thing called the Sage Rights Guild.
Right.
And what that does is essentially...
I thought that was tied to research, is it not?
It is.
Okay.
But you don't have to have a Sage Rights Guild.
No, I know.
What a Sage Rights Guild is, you put it somewhere. You have to appoint somebody in the Sage Rights Guild. This person retires from battle, cannot be married. Like, they are solely in this position until they die.
Yeah. So, like, if you pick somebody that's 8 years old to go into the Sage Guild, they will be there until they die.
Yeah. If you pick someone who's 80 to go into the Sage Rights Guild, you got maybe 2 days with them.
Exactly.
What it is that there's a stat, there's an intuition stat.
Uh-huh.
The higher that stat is what you're looking for. That's what's effective. But the Sage Rights, what they do is they lower the amount of research time research takes.
Right.
So you can have up to 3 in each guild. You can build as many guilds, essentially ground that can cover it, and really super lower the research time. But know that obviously you're just pulling people out of your roster.
That's where I use the Caberjacks. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I will put them in the roles for Sage. And I usually try to pick them. The intuition is always inversely proportionate to their age.
Yeah. And
I've been doing it where I pick super young people just so I don't have to deal with it. I haven't been researching a lot of things at this point. I've kind of done everything I want to.
Yeah.
So I'll put in like an 18-year-old there because I mean like that way I don't have to appoint somebody new for a long time, and their intuition goes up anyways as they get older.
Yeah.
So.
So there's that, and then there's the building is a crucible, which is essentially, we'll just say it's like a training area.
Yeah. It's like
a
gladiator arena.
You appoint what you're looking for is the person with the most experience, the highest level. This is again, this person is removed from battle. It is removed from marriage. But what it does is every year that passes, your characters gain a bonus of experience based on this character.
Yeah.
Again, each crucible can only hold 1 hero, so it's not as powerful. But at the same time, like then again, when we talk about like the end game, when characters need to be higher levels.
Yeah.
Like this is just kind of give them a bonus when there's not a battle that's happening for them to gain levels.
Yeah. And it's always risk reward. Obviously, the person you'll get the most XP from is probably your best fighter.
Yeah.
So you have to make the decision: do I want them to continue fighting battles for me, or do I want to remove them from battle, even though they're probably my best fighter, to fight everybody else? So it's like in the long run, it might have a better benefit.
Yep.
But at the same time, if they're 50 years old when I put them in the Crucible, they probably aren't going to train that many people anyway, so maybe I should get one more battle out of them instead.
And then so that's kind of the gloss over. And we're doing gloss over because I'm sure we're running low on time to talk about 2 games. But so then you're on this main screen. This is your kind of big hub. Once you select a research and you have everything built, there's just a play button on a timeline.
Yep.
What it does is it just plays
Fast
until
forward.
the next event.
Major event that they decide, the Chalice decides is important for you to deal with.
On the timeline, little symbols pop up, and you can stop it at any time, and you can click on the symbols.
Yeah.
And there's symbols for, like, this character died, this
baby was
born, this person came of age, whatever it's going to be.
Something was built.
This was built, somebody was promoted, whatever it is. The only time it'll stop is, like you said, an important event. Like, if somebody dies that's in the castle. Like
if you have to appoint a new ruler,
then it stops, and then you have to appoint a new ruler. If somebody dies in the Sage Rights Guild, the Crucible, you got to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
Anyway, you hit play. It goes until essentially, we'll just say the next battle or the next research item.
Yeah.
It's maybe 10 years at a time, 20 years at a time. 30
years
at a
it's
time.
random. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
When things happen. Like, you might have 5 people die all in 1 year.
There's also what can come up is, I guess we'll just call them a special event.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't even know how to describe this, a random text-based question pops up.
Yeah, it is a choice that you have to make as the ruler of this vast kingdom.
Yeah.
There are issues both big and small.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, the ones I've gotten so far, they have no clear right or wrong answer.
No, they're all ambiguous.
They're all, and you never know, too, what the outcome's going to be. Even if you pick something you think is going to be a slam dunk, it could have the complete opposite effect.
Yes.
And unlike the Telltale games, I'm completely okay with that. I like the randomness of it and the sometimes backward logic of what ends up happening.
Yes. So, for instance, we'll just cover maybe like 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it's going to be. There was one where I married a very old queen to a very young king, and they got pregnant.
I heard you're into that.
I just like watching that kind of porn. She got pregnant, and then basically it stopped the game, and it was just like the doctor came to her and said,
only she or the baby can live.
Yeah.
Who should I try to save?
Yeah, like I can't get them both to live. You have 3 options, believe it or not. You can save her, you can save the baby, or you can throw them in the chalice and hope that something happens in there.
I love that. Often the third choice has to do with the chalice, and it's usually a question. It's like, put it in the chalice? Question mark?
Like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you could try that. Have you ever done that?
Put them in the chalice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put things in the chalice.
What happens?
Well,
random stuff?
Random stuff, for the most part. What I will say is, so for this one, I tried to save the baby, because I was like, this is like a 60-plus-year-old
She's
woman.
going to die right away anyways.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Yeah.
If we save the baby, the queen's going to die eventually, very soon.
Yeah.
We'll get the kid out of it. Bingo. You select it. For most of them, there's a time frame of when you're going to see the result.
Yeah.
Some of them are instant.
Yeah.
Most of them are not. This one, immediately the doctor came back and said, I'm sorry, neither survived.
Same thing happened to me. I chose the opposite.
You chose save the woman?
I chose save the woman. She was in her 20s, and she was a trick shot hunter. And I was like, she could have a lot of... If I save the baby, that's one recruit. If I save the mother, we got a lot of recruits down the line. But they both died.
Yeah.
Because the game hates us, apparently.
Apparently. But so, like, that's the thing is, like, the random... I don't know if I would have picked Save the Woman if I would have gotten the exact same thing Chris got.
Right.
Or is it just literally a random crapshoot? I had another one, and this is the one that I put in the chalice, is there's a guy sent to the Sage Rights Guild. He wrote me and essentially said, hey, I've been using all my spare time to work on this thing. I don't know what it does, but I call it the
Parabox? Oh.
Parabox, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Apparently we've gotten the same one, so...
do you want to...
He says it's like a wooden mahogany box with gears in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you activate it, destroy it, or put it in the chalice?
Yeah.
I put it in the chalice, and what it did is it cut all of my research time by 25%.
Oh my god. I activated it, and it caused 4 kingdoms to get attacked at once.
Well,
it brought on the cadence. It was like a homing beacon for the cadence, and it brought them all out.
Amazing. That was my second choice. I was like, I actually had Caitlin was sitting. I was just like, what would you do? And she's like, I don't know, put it in the chalice.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, obviously, should have put that one in the chalice.
Yeah, but see, I don't know, again, if it's randomized. Maybe there's a positive and negative and a neutral.
Yeah, and it's also shuffled, too.
And it's just shuffled behind the answers, and so you don't know. Another one I got, we'll see if we're 3 for 3 on the meeting, is a cult member from
I've gotten this one, too, yeah.
From the woods runs in just like, hey, we worship the cadence, but a town is trying to kill us. We don't want to cause any trouble to anyone.
Yeah.
Will you protect us? And it's like, you can say, yes, we'll come protect you from the town. You can say, no, you kind of deserve to die. And 3 is like, the town's already doing the work for you, essentially, if I'm getting those correct. Or no, there was like, yes, we can arrest them, or we can just let the town.
Both extremes and nothing.
I had them arrested, and there was a character tied to the story that arrested them, and they got a positive perk, and it was like a stalwart, which is like, you know, whatever, like plus strength or something like that.
I chose to do nothing, to let him work itself out.
Yep.
And I got like a boost to one of the towns.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like, they just come up randomly. I think they're great.
Dude, you get the one where the crazy old man comes out of the woods and says that he lives by the cadence and he stares at it all day long, and after 20 years he knows how to communicate with it now?
No.
And you can send a recruit with him to see if they can gain that power also?
No, I didn't.
So I sent one of the guys out, even though I knew it wasn't going to work. I sent out, like, you know, a caberjack that I didn't like, and that was super young. He comes back in 20 years and be like, that guy's fucking crazy. I can't believe you sent me out to, like, do that. He's like, I'm not going to fight any battles for you anymore. I also got one that, like, this like, warrior came, this, like, rogue warrior showed up and was like, hey, I have this program to train heroes. If you send somebody with me, I can bring them back in 12 years, and they'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And, like, you're like, I don't know if you should trust him. This crazy man on a horse came out of nowhere. So I sent one of my recruits with him, and they haven't come back yet. So I don't know what's going to happen with that one. That's one of the things that, like, one of the reasons I kept playing so long was, like, I want to know. It's like 12 years. I got to keep playing for 12 years. But then all these other things happen in between.
Yeah, and
I still haven't gotten there.
The other one that I can think of that I had is a guy came to me and he said, hey, there's this essentially like the Cadence Mist.
Yeah.
My daughter went into the Cadence Mist and then she disappeared.
Yeah.
Will you send someone to look for her? And you can send someone from the Sage Rights Guild, you can send somebody from your
Crucible.
Yeah. Or you can just basically say, like, no, she's gone, let it go. And I sent just a regular guy, and then he came back. Well, no, okay. he came back, and he was just basically like, there's no way she survived it. And then he had a negative trait that was just nervous.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I made the same choice, and that was the same decision I got.
Okay, so maybe they're not randomized.
Yeah.
But
let's see.
But, like, I think you keep playing. Do you have another one?
I have another one that I want to talk about.
Okay.
This is maybe my favorite one. This woman comes hysterically crying, holding a baby. Did you get this one?
No.
And she says, my baby has the mark of the beast.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You have to kill it.
Yeah, I have gotten this one.
And so your choices are have the lady committed because she's crazy.
Yep.
Kill the baby.
Yep.
Or tell the woman you're gonna kill the baby, but have one of your keeps raise the baby instead.
Yeah.
And that's what I chose to do. I was like, okay, we'll kill it. Just give it to us. I gave it to one of the keeps. The result was, it turns out I guess the baby was evil because the woman got horribly depressed and could no longer take care of any of her children. And so it had to go live with somebody else. And then the second after I transferred it, it said she had died. So I think she killed herself. I think the baby was actually evil and made her kill herself.
I think this is a different game, so it wasn't my most recent playthrough, but I believe I got that, and I had the lady committed, and then she ended up killing herself before she could be committed.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. And then the baby, nothing happens with the baby.
Yeah, and the person that I transferred the baby to then got negative traits like depression and something else, and from then on out, that keep didn't produce any more babies until that baby died.
It's like, I don't know, it's like one of the coolest features, and it's such a small feature.
Yeah.
It's just these random events that happen that doesn't have to do with fighting, and it's really like, it's a multiple choice question.
Yeah.
There's never a right or a wrong answer because you don't know what it's going to be. We don't even know if it's shuffled behind the scenes or if it's always the same thing. Like, I'd have to play multiple times to see if that actually works. But so anyway, so this is kind of your usual spell is you fight a battle, then you hit play and you make all these decisions, you upgrade keeps or whatever.
Yeah.
I have found that I'm always panicking about research because it's always one of those like plus minuses of just like, do I want to put another building in to potentially upgrade the people I have, or like I'm getting to fight stronger guys, should I be upgrading weapons, armor and abilities? And I'm always kind of torn.
Well, that's what it is because there are so many options and so many variables. You have to be like, because every positive thing has a negative. Like, I can build another keep, but it's going to take 20 years.
Yeah.
I could get attacked 3 or 4 times in those 20 years.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even be able to use it until it's too late.
Yeah.
So I will say upgrading weapons, like upgrading the archer weapons and their training, I did that pretty early on, and it's really helped me.
I've been doing mainly keeps, Sage Guilds, Crucibles. Those were like my first 3.
Yeah.
I did the Nation one to bring people's levels up, and then I just did an item for accuracy. So my alchemists are less inaccurate when they throw.
I did that with the archers right away, with the hunters.
Yeah.
And it went from them being blind to them hitting almost consistently.
Yeah.
And then you can upgrade like not only their armor, but you can upgrade. I have like stun bolts now for my archers, so when they hit people, even if it doesn't kill them, it knocks them out for 1 round.
I think we should probably wrap up Massive Chalice.
Okay.
You can go first.
Well, I was just going to say that...
Or if there's anything else you want to talk about.
Well, no. I mean, I could talk about specifics for all these things. But I do think you probably spend half your time in battles, half your time managing.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like the battles are the main event. Doing the other stuff is just as interesting, and I think that it's so engaging because you always have like that next thing on the horizon, whether it's you're waiting to finish your research, whether you're waiting for another battle, whether you're waiting for the outcome of a special event. It kind of has this addicting quality of, I would almost say, like the mindset of like a mobile game.
It's
where it gives
very
you,
easy to get lost in how long
it gives you it gives you short-term and long-term goals. Therefore, you always have you can play for 5 minutes and do something, or you can play for 6 hours and do something. And so, like, because of that, it really is hard to, like, the first time I played it, I was literally like, okay, just one more thing. Like, okay, let me just next battle or like next thing, to the point where I just walked over and turned off my Xbox because I couldn't stop playing it.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even wait because I'm like, I can't save now in the middle of a battle, so I just went and turned it off. I'm like, I'll deal with it later.
Well, the thing is, like, I think that's you nailed it right on the head. Is because there's always that, like, well, I'm just gonna play until this.
Yeah.
And it's never just until that, because, like, maybe you're like, I'm gonna play until I finish this research. But then it's just like, you get in a battle right before the research.
Yeah.
So then you're like, well, I'm still going to play until we get this research. And then you get the research, you're like, well, now I got to see. And it's like, it's always setting up something else. And it's perfect for that. I also think that, like, the amount of nuances and strategies that you can kind of implore in this game are much more than, like, most games. And what I was telling Caitlin today, this game compared to XCOM and all that stuff, I have never been more nervous about playing a game than this one. Yeah. And what's crazy to me is, like, you know your characters are going to die. You can get as attached to a hero as you want. You know that character will not live to see the end. Well, XCOM, if you play it perfectly, like, you won't lose a single character. I am more nervous knowing that, because it's always just like, what if I made a bad choice? Yep. What if this hero, you know, is going to die, and then that my whole party dies, and then I take a hit point on a territory? Like, there's all this domino effects. Like, maybe I married the wrong two people. Now I'm going to have too many fucking caber jacks. There's, like, so much where I just stress out about it. That's another reason why I always start over, is because there's always this belief where it's just like, oh, if I would have got a better dice roll in the beginning, I could have done something great. It's
one of the games, though, that I think that it's impossible to get a perfect run. There's no way that you can get everything lined up for you for the entire 300 plus years.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, it's not a long game. Like, you figure, like, in 6 hours, you got through half the game. You're over 150 years. Yeah. So you think, like, you can beat the game in probably 10 hours.
Well, that's what I don't know, because we've never gotten that far, either of us. Is there, just based on achievements, there's an achievement for getting to year 301, and then there's another achievement for completing the game. So that doesn't mean they won't pop at the same time.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's some sort of end game that we haven't got to, that once the Chalice powers up, something else is going to be thrown at us that we have to deal with, even if it's just some sort of boss fight situation. But I'm interested. I'm going to keep playing this game all the way through if I can.
Yeah, I will probably start mine over 110 more times. Yeah. Until I finally go, like, yes, perfect, all hunters.
I will say, though, that just because of achievements,
you won't start.
I'm not going to start on my other card, because some of the achievements, now that I've played through, seem very, very hard.
With the kill with the drunk person seems hard now that I think about it. Oh, did you?
Yeah, 5 kills with a drunk person.
Because I've had 2 drunk people on my team, and they have never hit 5 kills.
I had a caberjack. I had a blast capper. Yeah. And so his area effect killed 5 enemies with 1 hit.
Oh, well, that'll do it.
Because
they were all grouped together?
Yeah, they were all seeds, and they had spawned from after I killed the whatever those other guys were that shoot them out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, I didn't even know that was an achievement. Cha-ching. Yeah. But yeah, like, beating the game with, like, iron on brutal difficulty seems like, based on even, like, there's all these guides and stuff saying that, like, if you were the best player at this in the world and you take advantage of save exploits, there's still so much randomness in it that you could play for 7 hours and then get one bad situation where you have to start the whole game over again.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is, like, I'm playing on normal now with iron, and it's still so hard where I'm still freaking out. I can't imagine going, because there's normal, then there's hard, and then there's brutal. Yeah. So you're still, like, 2 difficulties away from even attempting that. Just like, fuck no, man, I'm not doing it.
And I basically, the way I've played is with iron on. Like, I haven't had that toggle switch on, but just the way that I come into the game. The way that I proceed in the game is because I just save.
When you're done.
I play for 6 hours without saving at all. I save that one time, and then every time I pick it up, I save at the end. Sometimes I'll do a couple saves here and there, but I've never reverted back to the checkpoints. I've certainly, the first time I played, I didn't have Iron Mode on, and I did that, and I was like, I can do better. Well, I get the same way too, especially with games that allow you to save infinite amount of times.
Yeah.
Like, I probably have a whole gigabyte of Fallout saves. Because, like, before and after every decision or every item or every quest, I would save it.
Yeah.
So I would always have that chance, like, hey, because I know, especially with Fallout 3, there's sometimes somebody would accidentally die and you couldn't do that quest, which means you couldn't get that achievement. So I was like, I don't know if there's all these variables that I don't know until I get to them.
Yeah.
So if I want to be like, hey, if I want to go back to 7 days ago
you can do
in this keep, I want to be able to do that. I haven't done that, but...
My final verdict, even though I've said this before,
yeah.
I love this game. Every time I play it, I go like, why don't I play this game more? Like, the fact that I keep putting it down, confuses me. I don't know why. I think my 2 critiques, I will give 2 critiques, and then I will be done talking about Massive Chalice. 1, your character's level ups, and maybe this happens later on, I never get more than 3 abilities for a character. That character's dead before I can power them up more.
So what we didn't talk about is at certain benchmarks, I think it's like level 2, 4, 6, maybe 8, you get sort of a mini skill tree where you can choose between one of 2 abilities.
Yes.
And I've unlocked 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've gotten to the first one is you only have that one.
Yeah, you get one.
And then it branches off. Yeah, I think I've gotten the 3rd or 4th one for sure.
I've gotten the 3rd one.
And I think what you have to do is have your recruits high enough where they come in at level 8 or 9,
and
then you have them. Yeah, and then you have them in battle for 3 or 4 battles, so you get them up to level 12, and then you can use those.
My thing is, it was always just like, especially early game. Early game, you're lucky if you can get 3. That's like insane. I imagine end game maybe comes in more. There's probably more frequent battles. You probably have higher level ups that you're coming into. But it'd just be like, oh, sweet, this one leveled up. I finally got that ability, and then they die before the next battle.
Yeah. I've often not used the points because I see that there's that little flashing, you got skill points, but I've already used that guy's turn, and I have to remember to come back to do it, and I don't.
That's my first critique, but obviously that's just another thing to pay attention to. And my second one is that, and this is a really minor one, I wish the music was louder, because I think this game has such a great soundtrack, but the music is, for most of the battle, not in there at all. It only kicks in when you are either losing or winning, and then I
think it's supposed to be sort of that exclamation point. It's supposed to make you feel something. So if it was there all the time, maybe you wouldn't notice. I think you would. I just think that's their thinking.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to be like, big moment, you're about to win, or watch out, you're about to die.
Yeah, no, I get why they do it. It's just like, I'm fine playing in silence, but like the music kicks in, and I'm just like, yeah, I would have liked to have heard this throughout the whole level.
Yeah.
But those are my 2 critiques. Otherwise, I think this is a fantastic fucking game.
I highly recommend it to anybody, especially if you've got an Xbox and you can get it for free. There's no reason to not try this game out.
Yeah.
For me, it was a great change of pace too, coming from like a lot of shooters or these other games.
Yeah, maybe I can get you into some more isometric games.
And it went from like, hey, my first couple battles probably had to deal with the fact that I was losing too. They would be like 3 to 5 minutes long, where now I like average 20 plus minutes on a battle.
Yeah, you can really like milk it if you're moving like orange space and turn, orange space and turn.
And like I did a thing too, like, not to keep talking about this forever, but like there's also the type of battles where you have to go save people.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's, like, 3 old men at the other side of the map, and you have to protect them and stuff. And just the strategies that I try to come up with to save those guys is always fun, too.
Yeah, like, those are the keep battles, right?
The keep battles, yeah.
Like, those are strategies where you're just like, now you have to be different, because you have to protect those 2 people.
They're super weak on the other side of the map, so, like, your job is to, like, basically run to them as fast as you can while getting attacked by enemies.
Yeah, you can't take your time. You can't just move orange and turn, because then those people are going to die. And
because sometimes I would move forward and backwards in one area and wait people to come to me, because there's those maps where basically it's like, circle, bridge, and so like you just wait, like you kind of create havoc. You like go to the edges of the map so they come at you, and then you back up again.
Yeah,
and let them
I've done that.
Yeah.
Create little choke points.
Yeah,
you have them fall into your traps.
My theory for the keep battles was if I didn't move the other guys, the old men, that they wouldn't get attacked or whatever, but that's not true.
No, I think they're...
But they can last longer. My main goal for those guys is avoidance. Hide behind obstacles, move around in circles just to like duck and weave while I just rush the other characters there as fast as I can. And then hit them from behind because they usually line up then.
Yeah.
All the enemies are kind of like at the wall to attack them but haven't yet, and then the guys come in from behind and kill them.
Nice. Yeah. Super high recommendation from both of us.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I will say that if we ever do get to the final game, the end game, if we complete a game, then we'll
come
give
back
our
and
final
talk more.
thoughts on that. But
yeah, I mean,
you can play this game. You can play this game for the first 100 years over and over and over again, and I still think it would be worth it, and it would be a full experience.
That's all I've done.
Yeah,
I've started this game over so many times.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Because every time I start it, like I put it down. I get to like year 100, 150. Then I put it down, and I don't know why I put it down. And then I pick it up, and I'm just like, I don't know where I was. Start over.
Yeah.
And then I do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's get serial. All right. So now we are going to get into Life is Strange.
Yes.
It is going to be very spoiler heavy.
Yep.
If you do not want the story spoiled for you
up
to
to
this
episode
point,
2,
I would recommend turning it off now. You still had a full episode of Massive Chalice, Halo, and all that other good stuff.
So let's do our wrap up right now then.
Okay. Fake wrap up.
Yep.
Got it. You can find us on Twitter at NotFunPodcast. We have a email. This isn't funnymorepodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook. We have a YouTube. We have a Twitch that we very sometimes do.
Yep. Just subscribe to us on iTunes, and if you want to tweet at us, that's cool.
Yeah. We are still waiting on tweets of people recommending games for us. Like we did with Massive Chalice. We spent a whole time talking about it. We would like to do that with more games. So tweet us games you want us to play. That is all. We will give you 0.2 seconds of silence. Perfect. All right. That is it.
Yep.
They're all gone now. Right? That was fast. Okay.
So the rest of the episode is going to be Life is Strange.
Yep.
If you don't want that spoiled, we will see you next week.
Yes.
Clap. Louder. Okay. All right.
Everyone, welcome to Life is Strange.
Yeah,
the
Life
depressing...
is Strange talks. Yeah, we gotta change the mood lighting and play some emo music in the background.
Yeah. Chris, I've talked a lot about Life is Strange.
You have, and I talked a little bit about it because I played the demo.
Let's very quickly talk story.
Okay. Well, first I will say I'll just let the listeners know how we did this. So I went over to your place.
Yes.
And I played through the first 2 episodes.
Yes.
From the start of the game to the end of episode 2.
Yep.
While you and your wife sat there and watched me.
Yeah.
So
providing as little hints as possible to the game.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where I just told you like where a beer bottle was, and we'll get to that.
Because we're at like hour 5 of me playing this game.
But other than that, like the choices were yours.
Yeah.
We didn't influence at all.
No. But I will say it did affect the way that I played the game because I was sort of self-conscious because I did not play the game as if I would have by myself.
Yes.
Because I had, like, first of all, you guys were there watching me, judging me. No, I'm kidding.
Judgment.
So, because you guys had already played through, so you knew how to solve these puzzles.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to look stupid touching every wall and picking up every item.
I would have been fine with it if you
like I would have done if I was playing by myself. I would have, made sure I explored every little thing.
Yeah.
And also because of just being in a group setting, and we sort of talked about this when we played Dying Light, but it's super easy to just make fun of
the
things.
Game. Yes.
Especially this game with the dialogue and the attempts at being a cool teenage girl, and just trying to pretend like they're American, forcing down your throats that burgers and flags and America and American Girl is like the first song she listens to, which is not a real song. So I will just preface my impressions, my talk by saying that I played it in a kind of unique situation.
Yeah, I mean, we had more fun with it.
I know that when I stepped out to go to the bathroom for a minute, Caitlin probably said, like, you're not taking this as seriously as you should.
When
I went to, no, like Caitlin said that about how I was playing.
Oh no, she didn't.
Okay.
She was just playing her Game Boy. She didn't really care.
Yeah.
She's seen it 100 times.
Right.
No, okay. But yeah, with that said, I mean, I still think you got the gist of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of your choices you won't know how they pay off because 3, 4, and 5 happen. But okay, we'll just start at the top.
Okay.
We'll try and do a not a super long run through. You play as Max. She is a 18-year-old girl.
We're saying 18. I know she says she's 18, but she looks like she's 12.
This doesn't even seem like high school. This
Yeah.
seems like middle school. But yeah, you play as an 18-year-old girl. The first episode, in a nutshell, I'm not talking about specifics, is that you gain the power to rewind time. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. You go into the bathroom after class. You see somebody get shot. You discover that you have this rewind power. It is your whole mission to essentially use that power to prevent her from getting shot and then go through, I guess, everyday life as a teen girl.
Yeah.
It ends with the fact that you kind of have a blackout and you discover that there's a tornado set to hit your town on Friday. We don't know what day it is.
Yes, you are having reoccurring visions of a natural disaster in the town you were in. That's the first thing you do when you play the game. The first time you get controls is you're in this dream, and then it comes back again at the end.
Yes.
So you know that this is leading to a major event.
Yeah.
Whether or not she has the ability to stop a natural disaster, I doubt it.
No, I don't think so.
So whether it's just her making important decisions to save people or to get the question right about some sort of photographer.
Yeah.
Seems to be a theme
here.
Theme, yeah.
Yeah, so that is the main overview. The minutia is that there's a lot of... The beginning of the game is just kind of teaching you about the time powers, because obviously later on in other chapters they're not going to spend that kind of time teaching you about time powers. The joking part of this game that we always make fun of is that it seems like it was written by someone who doesn't know... Written by multiple people.
We haven't looked this up. We probably should have, but it's Square Enix, it's a Japanese-based company.
Yeah.
That is made a lot of
Final Fantasy
JRPGs.
Yeah.
Like they have a very specific knowledge base, and it seems like this is supposedly taking place in Oregon, USA.
Yeah.
And it seems like they got their information from watching 90s television and movies. And
it's also done by Don't Nod Entertainment. I don't know what exactly their hand is. We are bad at researching. We don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe Square Enix just published it and Don't Nod did all the work.
But it doesn't it? It seems very Japanesey, and it also seems like an outsider's view of Americans in America.
Yes, I will agree 100%.
Yeah.
And you kind of get that through spliced in between. But first of all, character dialogue, it is hard to take it seriously. Even when you're playing not in a group setting
when you're just by yourself.
There's hella is used all the time.
Yeah.
There's this is a hick hole and there's just lingo.
Just so many attempts either taking super outdated lingo and using them incorrectly.
Yeah.
Or trying to create something cool to say.
Yes.
Based on phrases or sentences or parts of other words that are supposedly cool. It's so far, I don't think one has been successful.
No, I think you really have to look past the dialogue, which is hard to do because it's a story game.
Based dialogue
game.
So
you kind of just have to get the gist of the dialogue and ignore when they say "Oh man, you're hella great, yeah, sister." There's just so much "You're cool, dag," and they even have the subtitles on and they do the weird spellings of the words.
Yeah.
They don't.
Cool Kid spelled with K and a Z.
Yeah. It's why did you do that?
Yeah.
No one can emphasize that when you say cool, it's with the K and not the C.
Right. But they saw it on a 90s Trapper Keeper once, and so they put it in the game.
And they put it in the game.
Yeah.
It's hard to. I mean, I guess we're just going plot point by plot point, but you start when you wake up from this dream and before you go to the bathroom, like while it's teaching you, there's kind of a unique mechanic where you can rewind dialogue, and anything you've learned from previous dialogue you can then answer with. So they teach you it very
your
early.
dialogue tree opens up, and you usually go from 2 choices to 3, and the third one is the new one and is underlined and it is the quote unquote right answer.
Yeah, it's where you can be the special someone to everyone. You can answer and use quotes from John Lennon to impress your teacher after he used them.
Yeah. He can tell you a quote, you rewind time and just say the quote to him before he has a chance to say it.
Yeah, or you can, there's one there, you're just like, you get to know a girl better by first asking about her family, and then she's like, my mom's sick, and then you can rewind time and just be like, I heard your mom is sick, how is she?
Yeah.
And then it seems like you care more. For that mechanic, I find that I use it less and less and less as I play.
Just as the one-off, no consequence dialogue choices.
Yeah. I'm just like, I made my decision. Yeah. I said that your mom's a bitch. I didn't care. I forgot that she was dead. I looked like an idiot. But, I'm not going to rewind it to pick the third option.
If we can get to sort of the bigger themes of it.
Yeah, I'm just giving touch.
I will say that, the first time you use your time powers is for a major event, stopping the murder of this girl.
Yep.
It has consequences. There was a reason you did it. And throughout the next 2 episodes, every time you use your time power is like a parlor trick. It doesn't actually matter or have a real consequence until the finale, basically.
Yeah.
So...
Which we're spoiling. So
we're spoiling it. But, specifically, I felt like after you saved Chloe from dying, from getting shot, the next time you use your time powers that matters is saving Chloe from getting run over from a train.
Yes.
So at this point it seems like she was meant to die. She was fated to die.
Yeah,
and your only job is to save her idiot life.
I do think this is very much Final Destination, maybe not inspired per se, but it's just like death has a plan and she was meant to die, because I agree with you, the first thing, you go throughout most of the game, the only time power you're using is to change dialogue options.
Yeah, or it happens so much where you try to do something and you knock something else over in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
And so then you have to use your time power to first move an object before you open a door or you don't knock over a glass. But not only is that stupid and they use it way too much, my main problem is they don't give you the option to move the object before it fails.
Yeah, it's not I picked the wrong option first. It's like I have
you always
to knock
have
it
to
over
fail
first,
yeah.
and then I can rewind time. And I agree. And most of that stuff, you have to rewind it anyway because it's important to the plot.
Yeah.
So there's one thing, you're looking for a book for a girl. I think it's in chapter 2, and I'm kind of jumping around. And you find the book, and you go to pick up the book, and you knock over juice on it.
Yeah.
You could technically be a douchebag and
not
give
rewind,
her the book full of dirty soot water, and her book's ruined, and I imagine she hates you. I can't find a single person in the world who would probably do that. You rewind time, you just move the glass and pick up the book.
But it's all falling objects. Whether it's even if it's supposedly an action sequence and something falls in your way, you have to rewind time and then make sure you get by it before it falls.
Yeah, the way they do action/timed events is very. Your girl can't run, she can't do anything, so it's just you just have to rewind time and then just continue on. Rewind time, try it again.
What's weird to me is that when you rewind time, your character doesn't rewind.
No.
You're standing in, let's say you walk 10 paces and then rewind time, you're still at that final step.
Yeah.
You haven't gone all the way back then. Because I thought what it was going to be is okay, you take 2 minutes to solve this puzzle, but it was supposed to be solved in 90 seconds. So now that you know how to do it, you go back to starting point 1 and then do it real fast. But instead it's nope, you're there, and even if you pick up an object, let's say you pick up a crowbar to try to open a door.
Yeah.
I still have that crowbar when I've rewound time, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yes. Yeah, it's your person is impervious to time. I don't think they explain it ever.
Yeah.
But you are out of the space-time continuum.
But then she doesn't use that to her benefit, really, other than small puzzle solving. If she could spend 6 years walking across the country and then rewind time, where then she's standing there from 6 years ago, that's just a stupid example. But I mean, to save her friends or to do something,
Yeah, no, I get. I like you'd think like a lot of the puzzles and one of them that we've kind of alluded to, and this is in chapter 2, is like your friend Chloe gets stuck on the goddamn railroad tracks.
Right.
If you knew that you could rewind time and still be standing there, like
right, why not rewind time before she got stuck?
And then just be like, like I don't know, freaking push her down or something like that, so she doesn't get stuck, or just get her out of the way. Earlier.
Or spend that time trying to get her free, rewinding, try something else, rewind, she doesn't really.
But instead, like, it's just a setup to get you to do this puzzle, which you still have to use the rewind time for.
Yeah.
But just like, it's one of those things where if I had those powers, I wouldn't think I need to divert this train using wires and pull levers and break into cabinets. I would go like, I'm going to rewind time.
I'm going to try to get her foot free. I'm going to untie her shoe or something. I'm going to,
I'm going to do, exactly. I'm going to, like, rewind time to when we were just laying on the tracks like idiots, and I'm going to untie her shoe for no reason and giggle and stand up, and then she chases me.
Or just tell her, at this point, she knows you have time powers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So just tell her, hey, you get hit by a train. You need to move. You idiot. You stupid idiot.
Stuck.
Why are we laying down on train tracks?
I think they try and get around that by saying, like, if she uses it too much, her head hurts and she gets a nosebleed. So that's
But only when they decide.
Well, that's why she can't go back. So, like, you can't go back to the beginning of an episode and make all new choices. I agree. It's a stupid mechanic, and I think that they could handle it better where it's just like, if they explained or had a reason why she can't go back more than, let's say, 10 minutes, then it would make more sense. Don't give me the option that I can rewind 2 hours ago when I had a conversation with Mr. Jefferson and start that over, but I can't rewind 5 minutes to get her foot unstuck from a fucking train track.
Yeah.
Like that, it's insignificant, but it's
also
at the same point.
The time at which she can go back fluctuates depending on what puzzle you're solving.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
But so the first episode, since we've jumped ahead, like you get all this time power, you save.
Yeah.
You save her from getting shot. That's the main choice. There are other choices that impact the plot, but there's still like up in the air.
At this point, in seemingly minor ways.
In seemingly minor ways. I'm trying to think. Like the first one is you can report what you've seen. Who
do you report that to?
The principal.
What's his name? Principal?
Principal.
Well, I was just going to tell my story about
Principal Jackoff.
So when you rewind time, she sticks her hand out, and then it does sort of like a fast forward / rewind shutter effect where she's like shaking and stuff.
Yeah.
So of course, while I was talking to the principal, as being an old jackoff, I decided to rewind time, and it looked like she was grabbing his crotch and shaking her hand.
Yeah.
So
we had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. We didn't take a screenshot, did we?
No, we didn't.
We did take a screenshot of later on during a cutscene, sort of.
Yeah, it was a cutscene.
It was all, in engine and stuff, but there was a cutscene, and down the hallway, it was we were in the school hall. There was just the kid standing there with his arms out on his side. He was just making a T.
Yeah.
Because when you're making character models, that's their normal pose.
That's their default pose.
He glitched, and he was just standing in the middle of the hall, staring directly at us. Well, we're having arms out to the side.
Up. Yeah. I've posted that picture.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. So you can look that up.
Okay, on the Twitter at Not Fun Podcast.
Not Fun Podcast.
Yeah.
But so. Your first thing is you can report the kid you saw.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to cover these choice games. By reporting him, we both reported him.
Yeah.
Later on down the line, what happens is the principal, because the student is a complete dickhole and for whatever reason owns the town, the principal doesn't believe you, and the kid finds out that you're the one that reported him. And so you get threatening messages from him. The dad contacts you. You get threatening messages from him. The kid breaks into your room later and essentially, smears, I guess, paint or blood.
It's probably paint, yeah.
But whatever. It's just like, you're a bitch, I know where you sleep kind of issue. Like, you're supposed to feel threatened by him because you reported him. We don't know what happens if you don't report him. But the option is if you don't report him and you try and say that you're just on your lady times, the principal doesn't believe you. And it's going to contact your parents for lying to him, even though he has no proof that you're lying to him.
Right.
So, like, your first option is, like, be a snitch or take blame for nothing. but
and
still take blame.
Another thing is too is like the entire first episode and then some. Like every choice you had, anytime you would talk to somebody, your choice would be A, or tell them about this kid that's doing this thing. They kept trying to force you to tell almost everybody. And it's not like, oh, it's one of 4 or 5 options. It was one of 2 options for every person you encountered.
Yeah. I think the first episode, and we'll get to this, is definitely the weakest of any episode.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's so much setup and they probably didn't know what they were doing at that time.
Yeah.
Other big, I guess, choices is you can decide whether or not you want to sign a petition that prevents cameras from being installed in the school, or don't sign it. Later on in episode 3, you find out if a petition passes. For me, I signed the petition, which means it passed and there's no cameras.
Yeah.
For you, if you were to get to 3, you did not sign it, chances are cameras are going to happen. I don't know what that'll impact later on. Who cares?
It's got to be minor. It can't be that big.
It can't be that big. But there's minor things that I think, like, why is that a choice? And I wonder what happens. If you never report the kid, I feel like that's a minor thing. But at the same time, like, I can point to, like, 3 or 4 different situations where because you reported him, he is a giant asshole to you. And I wonder what would happen if you didn't.
Well, my guess is based on the way that I've interacted with other characters, and, like, let's say, like, that bitchy girl or whatever, I chose to be friends with her for a minute. She did not change at all then the next time I talked to her, and I think that's kind of how all the characters are. They are playing very
specific
distinct
roles.
stereotypes, and so you might be able to change one conversation, but it's not going to change something down the line. And as far as the decisions go, the choices, I think it's like, if A, then B. Like, for example, you have the choice you see a security guard harassing one of your friends, this girl.
Yes.
You can either take a picture of it, or you can step in and stop it.
Yes.
And it seems like if you chose to take a picture of it, later on you could use that as evidence against that guy.
Yeah.
But since you didn't, you had to find another way. So, like, it's not like a major thing. It's like, okay, like I said, A and then B. If I did A now, I can do B one time later. But it's not like it's gonna spread and have ripple effects down the line.
Yeah. I agree. I think like with all these choice games, Walking Dead, all that stuff. There's a story that they're funneling you towards, and obviously it's not going to be like, because I reported this and I didn't report that, I have 2 different crazy endings.
Yeah.
It's still going to be like, oh, you're still going to be hated and you're still going to be this, and bam, you're still at point B.
But I think they did some interesting things as far as like him getting mad at you. Like I mentioned before, like using text messages, using like the sign on the wall from a program standpoint, it's easy to not do those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's easy to have 2 different choices. Be like, okay, they didn't rat him out, so that way don't text him, don't put things on the wall, and that makes sense too.
Yes.
Like it's easy to do one or the other without having it be a branching storyline.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's probably true, is if you don't report him, he still probably finds out that you were in the bathroom. And he still makes threatening, don't tell anybody kind of bullshit, and he still hates you, and, you're still supposed to feel threatened. I'm sure that's the case. I just like if I don't think about the strings.
Yeah.
The nuances where I'm just like...
It does feel like there's more cause and effect than playing, like, the games that I have been complained about before.
Yeah.
So...
And I'm trying to think, like, the next major one in episode 1 is way down the line. And that is... So, plot-wise...
Yeah.
You go to your dorms, you get a flash drive, you meet your essential boyfriend, quote-unquote. He has a crush on you. Your girl's dumb as shit. She doesn't know. In between there, like, you get paint on, your evil, the high school mean girls clique.
Yeah.
Which, that's just puzzle solving. But you get the flash drive. He gets beat up by the kid who you ratted on. You duck into a car with Chloe, which is the girl that would have died. You find out it's your best friend from the past.
Yeah.
She drives you all the way to your house. Blah, blah, blah. You fix your camera. All this stuff is minor. But then...
You don't fix your camera. She just gives you a new one.
She just gives you a new one.
You have to spend the whole episode trying to fix your camera, and then you can't because obviously she doesn't know how to fix a camera.
Yeah, she just
and then she's like, oh, okay, here's a new one then.
And then there's some minor things you can find out about Chloe. You can find out that her stepdad, which is the security guard, has been keeping tabs on all of the kids.
Yeah.
He's got files that if you choose... First of all, there's files. If you grab them, they fall in like ink
oil
or
something.
something. So you leave a shitload of evidence that you were there. You can then read them, and then your girl's just like, yeah, he's crazy, but you can't, like, keep them. You can't keep the files, and you can't prevent them from falling on oil.
And it seems like she doesn't, like you said, doesn't retain any information. So if you play, they fall in the oil, you look at them. In theory, if she rewinds time, she should still have that knowledge based on every other thing that the game has taught me so far.
I feel like this is a broken interaction.
Yeah, but for some reason, you then don't know that information, and you can't use it later on.
Exactly. But so then the next major thing is the stepdad comes home and tries to come upstairs, and you hide, and essentially he confronts Chloe for smoking pot, and you can either, again, intervene or you can stay hidden.
Yeah.
If you stay hidden, he hits his daughter.
It's a lot of these decisions feel like lose-lose to me.
Yes.
It's like you either can get, somebody's going to get mad at you for no reason.
Yep.
Either way. So either somebody's going to hold it against you for not sticking up for them, or the other person's going to hold it against you for sticking up for the other person.
Yeah, it's always lose-lose.
Yeah.
In this case, if you stay hidden...
is that what you did?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay.
He gets mad at his stepdaughter. He hits his stepdaughter. You see it.
Yeah.
So, great abuse there.
Yeah, that's always
leaves.
fun.
He doesn't suspect you at all because
he doesn't know you exist.
But then the girl's just like, later on, she's like, you were really great help standing up for me.
Well, first of all, it wasn't her pot. It was the girl that was smoking its pot.
Yeah.
So to ask her to step in would be ridiculous anyways, because not only, if it was just a parent, that's one thing, but he's like the head of security at their school who's already gotten this girl in trouble. So why would she go out of her way to take the blame for illegal drugs when her friend's still going to be friends with her no matter what?
Yes.
I chose to do the opposite. I did both things to see what the outcome was, and I decided to stick up for Chloe. Only because I was thinking, there's no way they're going to believe this was my pot.
Yeah, and they don't. They don't.
Yeah.
They're just like, was it really?
But so that way, it's like, they don't really get that mad at me, the authority figures, because they know it's not mine, and also I got the points for sticking up for my friend.
Yes.
So.
And then you climb out the window, and this is where the game ends, essentially, is you go back to the park, you have your flashback. You find out that this big epic storm is going to happen.
You find a newspaper, and therefore you think the day it's going to happen.
And the chapter ends, and that's episode 1, which we covered very quickly. But a lot of the stuff, because there's no consequences, because everything...
It's a tutorial. The whole game, the whole first chapter is just, this is how you play. This is the setup of the world. Yeah,
we're going to teach you that these big choices, you can watch them, you can pick an answer, watch it, and then rewind it. And it's not until you leave the room that it saves.
Yeah.
So a lot of these you can play twice to see what the dialogue's going to be. But yes, the initial aspect is it's always lose-lose.
Yeah.
The principal one's a perfect example. You agree or disagree. You report.
You get yelled at anyways. Like you're the jerk for no reason. Yes. You didn't initiate the conversation with the principal. He has no knowledge of any prior events. So for him to assume you're lying about an event that he doesn't even know existed is pretty ridiculous.
Yes, and it's the same. It's the same for all of them. And then you step in for the girl taking the picture later on when the security guard's harassing the girl. Initially, you're just like, I didn't step in because I took a picture.
Right.
That girl hates me now. And there's no pay, and you don't think that there's any payoff. I have a picture. What do you fucking do?
And that was the choice that I chose originally. Yeah. Was I chose to take the picture because I thought it was, hey, take a picture and then do something else. I didn't think it was like, if you take a picture, then you're just gonna stand there for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because I thought, hey, I'll take a picture of it as evidence, but I would still step in then.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, don't harass her. I have proof of you talking to her, or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought there was gonna be immediate payoff to that decision.
Yeah. And there's not. And that payoff doesn't happen until way
And when
down
you
the road.
step in, she still doesn't really care that much. She's not immediately mad at you, but she doesn't become friends with you then, the girl.
She's just like, thanks for stepping in. I've had a really tough day.
Right.
And then she walks off. And then now the security guard's pissed at you again for sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, and you have nothing.
Right.
A lot of this stuff is just it's really hard to get behind because you don't know what it's going to happen.
Right.
So then we skip to chapter 2. Chapter 2. Episode 2, whatever you want to call it.
Episode 2.
It starts off much the same. In terms of the first one, not like the story's the same, but like your choices again are very minuscule.
Yeah.
You wake up, you go take a shower, you hear about this viral video that there's a church girl who's essentially seen on camera making out with a bunch of dudes. They posted it online because she's like super religious-y. Her parents disown her for it.
Yeah.
All this sort of stuff. Like she's going through some rough shit, but she says that she was drugged.
She doesn't remember any of it.
She doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the start. That's the beginning half. Then you eventually meet Chloe, and now you tell her about your superpower. You prove to her that you have this superpower.
Time and time again.
The
entire second episode was just you doing parlor tricks to prove to your friend that you had time powers. Even after she believed you, you still had to continually do things. And I feel like that would have been fine as a tutorial level. That should have been in episode 1.
Been a tutorial. Yes.
Like that, like all that stuff was fine and fun and interesting. And that, there's always those scenes in movies where you have to convince everybody that you can do what you can say. Whether it's read people's minds or have time, but any of that stuff. There's always that scene where you have to prove it to your friends so they can be on board.
Yeah.
But like I said, that should have happened right away. Especially if there's 5 episodes. We're in like Act 2 or 3. Of something that's supposed to, start to ramp up enough to have a conclusion, where I spend 2 more hours proving to my friend that I can know what's in her pockets.
Yeah.
That got tiresome.
The pockets, then it's predict the future, then it's find bottles and tell her where to shoot.
Yeah.
And then it's, it's all this like stupid nonsense.
They're just padding until you got to the end.
They were padding. And that's what bothers me is watching you play through it is like when I finished episode 2, and we'll get to the end.
Yeah.
But just like I had such a high favor, I'm just like, oh wow, it really starts to get good here. But then I realized it doesn't get good until
the last
literally
few minutes.
the last few minutes.
Yeah.
And then you go like, okay, now I'm intrigued. So essentially, you go through 2 full chapters of this game, and it's kind of just like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
And then maybe if you're like me, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm in. And then hopefully it leads you the rest of the way, but. So you prove that you have special powers. You find out that there's this creepy guy that you borrowed money from, that he wants his money back and he's got a knife.
Sorry. Before we get too much farther, one thing we forgot to mention, I don't know how, is that there is a missing girl that is going on. So there's a girl named Rachel. She is missing. There is a missing poster, the same missing poster for her every 5 feet in this game, everywhere, places it shouldn't be, like people's bathroom. There's like missing posters, like every store you go into, every school corner, every bulletin board, every laying on the ground outside. There's the missing poster for this girl Rachel, and so there's supposedly a mystery too into that. You're sort of passively trying to find out what happened to Rachel.
Yes, you find. Yeah, that's a good point. I can't believe we missed this. Yeah. For one, it's always interactable, which is a pain because if you are like me and probably like you if you weren't being watched, you would interact with every fucking item and you'd always interact with that poster a million times. You're like, wow, somebody must have really missed her. Yeah. Oh boy, another missing picture. Yeah. Whatever it is. But anyway, what you find out slowly by talking to all the characters if you do is that everyone knew Rachel. Everyone
but you.
Everyone but you had a hand somewhere up Rachel's skirt.
Yeah.
The
teacher, finger in the pie, so to speak.
The teacher supposedly slept with her.
Yeah.
A lot of the photography students knew her and had her in the photo books. She's the model, and then Chloe, that's her best friend. You meet this this hillbilly, and he's got her bracelet. David, the stepdad, has a whole file on Rachel. There's this whole thing that you're supposed to, like you said, slowly start investigating, but you don't have option to investigate. This just happens around you.
But when I said before how you have 2 options to say what's happening with that one guy, your other option is usually, do you know Rachel, or do you know anything about Rachel, or who's Rachel?
Yeah.
So every person you talk to, you're getting information about Rachel.
Yes.
Even though, like I said, it doesn't feel like your character is actively pursuing that. She just keeps sort of walking into it. So if she happens to solve this case along the way, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a benefit.
I think it's obviously very important to the story. It just seems like the character of Max doesn't really care. She's more interested in her own problems because she's a teenage girl and very narrow-sighted.
I'm fine with it in the belief that if all of a sudden hypothetically one of your friends that I've never met went missing, I wouldn't be like, where's where's Judge Dredd? I don't know what your friend's name is. Probably Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd. you know Judge.
I wouldn't be like investigating and be like, Chris has a picture of him, and this lady has a handbag that could have been his. I don't know. I don't care. So, like, I get that she doesn't pay that much attention, but it's almost at the same point, like, really, everyone in the town, like a random fucking passerby,
literally, like somebody, a homeless guy waiting for the bus, knows something about Rachel.
Oh, I loved her. We had sex in the back.
But also, you find out like most of the things are bad about her. That way, you have no idea what things led to her missing or not.
Yeah.
So it's like, she might have owed money to this guy, and she used to deal drugs or all this other garbage.
She was in the Vortex Club, which is the popular group.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's always drugging kids.
Yeah.
So this guy, whatever, the big choice, which I thought was the funniest choice, is you have a gun, and this guy threatens your friend, and immediately it's shoot him or don't shoot him.
Yeah.
You took not even a full second to
I
mash
pulled the right trigger
button.
Before it even came up that's what it was going to do.
Yeah.
Because usually right trigger is shoot.
Yeah. And you were like, shoot him.
Yeah.
Shoot him. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, because we had spent the last, 4.5 hours in this junkyard looking for bottles to shoot.
Yeah.
And so we shot 3 of the bottles.
Yeah.
And then the 4th shot ricocheted or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I just wanted to shoot the guy right in the gut, right in the face. Because worst case scenario, I get to rewind and do something else.
Yeah.
But I wanted to shoot this guy.
And it turns out that you didn't have the gun loaded, so you basically just made an empty threat to this guy, but he walks away.
Well, it wasn't that empty.
No, that's true. Well,
the outcome was empty.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty real threat, because you thought that you were murdering this man.
I am really going to murder you.
Yeah. He was not that upset about it. He decided to then leave instead of...
Yeah, so you won.
I won the argument by threatening to shoot him.
I chose not to shoot him.
Smart.
And he takes the gun away from you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's just, like, you hold it up, and he slowly starts walking
So I think I made
you.
the right choice then.
I think you made the right choice, because he takes it, and then Chloe, of course, gets pissed at you and says, like, you just gave away that gun. You know how hard it was for me to get a gun.
Right. And also, you think it's loaded then, right?
Yeah,
you didn't know that it wasn't loaded.
You don't know. It's like,
you're not... so you just gave him a weapon.
Yeah, you just gave him a weapon.
Yeah.
And then now he has a weapon, and he's still owed money.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to, I guess, feel doubly threatened.
Yeah.
Anyway, that goes into the scene with the railroad tracks, which we've already covered.
Yeah.
She gets stuck on the railroad tracks. You have to save the day. She drives you back to school, and this is the last section of Chapter 2, is you are essentially going to art class.
Yeah.
You walk through the school, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You can help somebody out with homework. You can just walk past. You see the churchy religious girl talking to the teacher. Basically, teacher saying, like, I can't help you. She cries, walks away. You can't do anything to stop that. Then you sit down in class. A kid busts in and
so
says...
much time spent in class in this game.
So much time. A kid busts in and says, hey, there's something crazy happening at the girls' dorm. Right. Everyone gets up and leaves. You walk out. You find that girl is standing on top of the dorm building, and she is about to jump. She actually does jump, and you rewind time to save her, to stop her at the top.
And my guess is this was the reason that you wanted me to play.
Yes, I would. This is the moment where I was just like, "Oh wow, this is actually really good."
Because I would say up until this point, there would be no reason to make me play this game. Not that like if I bought it and played it, that's fine. Like I think it's a game worth playing in general. But I'm saying like to go out of your way to be like, "Hey, you got to sit down and play this so we can talk about it."
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to talk about.
Right, I'm sure.
Whole end is because it's just like what I thought that they really did well is this girl's jumping no matter what. Right now.
Yes.
Like you rewind, and she keeps jumping. So then
because you don't have time. Like the second you walk into this quad, she's already jumping.
She's already jumping.
Yeah.
Max is able to freeze time and still move, and so she's able to get to the top of the building.
But chooses not to like take the girl to safety while time is frozen, or
then time immediately stops being frozen, and she learns that she can no longer rewind time. Like, her powers are drained.
Yeah.
Her head hurts. It's raining. They have a nice gloss on all of the characters to symbolize wetness. And now you are trying to prevent this girl from killing herself. Basically with the game telling you, you cannot rewind.
You have one chance.
Choice is final.
Yeah.
And so, what happens is it's a very long dialogue tree that expects you to have remembered very small details about this church girl.
You had to investigate this girl's room on your own in like free roam, basically, and read a specific Bible verse, and not only read it, but remember the name, the chapter, the line.
Yes.
And
that's not. There's more questions after that one.
Yeah.
That you didn't get to.
Right. Obviously, I'm sure you didn't either.
No, not the first time.
Yeah, but Caitlin did.
Well, with the help of the
internet. Of course, yeah. But basically, you have 3 choices: 2 Bible verses, or
suicide is a sin.
Suicide is a sin sort of situation where it's just like not a specific thing, but it's like something that's in the Bible and you think would reach out to her.
Yeah.
I knew that wasn't the answer because of stuff you had already told me. But I chose it anyways because I feel like that's what I would have chosen. I wouldn't have said one of the other 2 if I didn't specifically know what it meant.
Yes.
So, and then as soon as you said, like, hey, it's suicide's a sin and you're going to go to hell if you kill yourself, she's like, this is already hell. And then she jumps instantly. Like, you don't have a chance to react to anything after you say your choice.
Yeah, so, like, this whole dialogue is, like, the first, first you have to tell her that, that you have to reassure that this isn't the end of the world and that this video is going to be forgotten and like this is only like a minor inconvenience, and then you have to remind her of like somebody who cares for her, and there's 4 choices.
Right.
Her father and her sister cares for her. She doesn't have any brothers, and her mother hates her for this video. If you pick the mother or the brothers, she kills herself because you don't know anything about her.
Yeah.
The father, the sisters.
Yeah, I picked the sisters. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, she's only 10 or whatever. She's got the greatest smile and all that stuff, but then she still doesn't care.
Yeah, well, that's your step to the next conversation.
Yeah.
And then
you have all these pitfalls that you can
have all these pitfalls, and that's what I want to get to. Is so basically our first playthrough, my first playthrough, not using the internet.
Yeah.
Is picking the wrong Bible verse and she kills herself.
That's where I also got tripped.
And you picking the wrong Bible verse and she kills herself. And then so the game immediately saves. The character is dead. And then you get to this final scene. So you play out this final scene. You're in the...
Well, can I just say something about that actual interaction again?
Yeah.
So if they put up multiple pitfalls, that's good. But from my perspective of just playing through it once and getting to the Bible verse thing and like that was the cutoff, I felt like that was the only thing that mattered.
Yeah.
Like if I would have gotten past that, she would have lived.
Incorrect. But yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's the feeling that I got from it.
Yeah.
And so I felt like all the stuff that happened before that was just a variation on the conversation, but wasn't consequential. So it kind of made me upset that I felt like, hey, like befriending her, making all these choices didn't really matter. All that mattered was that I happened to, snoop in her room while she was in there and read a Bible verse and remembered it.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the strings that we see behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's just like when I played through very first time, I made sure that she, like I always supported her. I made sure I talked to her all the time. I got her everything I could. Like you were super good friends with her. Whether or not, if you don't do any of those things, you even get a chance to talk to her, is of course one of those things where just like, I'd have to play it and make a conscious effort not to.
Yeah, or look it up.
But it's just like one of those things where just like, it's hard not to just be her friend because she's going through troubled times. So it's like, then it does come down to one dialogue choice on whether a girl lives or dies, and all of the previous choices don't matter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of stupid. Because, she shouldn't even gotten to this stage because I've been her best friend.
Exactly. That's what I felt like too. Like, hey, if I made the right decisions throughout this, like I just need to make 3 out of the 5 choices on her side, and if I talk through her the right way, I can still find a way out of it.
Yeah.
Rather than it's like you gotta, keep walking and hopefully the trapdoors are not set up against you, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
I agree. That's what it should have been. What I would have done if I would have done that scene better is I would have been like, every wrong answer, she takes a step back.
Right.
And every right answer, you take a step forward. And then, so like you said, maybe there's 5 options.
Yeah.
And if you get 3 wrong, then she dies. And then, like, you can, because you were her friend, you immediately get that initial, like, step forward.
Yeah.
And then you only have to get 1 out of 4 right. Or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
To have it be, one wrong, she's dead. Is like, yes, it's impactful because it's just like, oh shit, because when she died for me and Caitlin was watching, it was immediately just like, holy shit, like we fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's not preventable. And then, you play through the whole chapter, then Caitlin like spends her time on the internet to find that it is preventable, and then she had to play it again just to make sure that there's a story arc where that lady lives.
Yeah.
But so I thought it was handled well, but I think it could have been better where it doesn't just come to...
Yeah. It seems like, let's say we did the opposite. Let's say we were a jerk to her the entire first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Then we get to the end. I think the conversation still plays out the same way, and if you are lucky and guess the right answers or something, you can still save her from dying, which is, kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Because if you could go the other way and do everything right, you can still get the wrong answer just because you missed a small tidbit.
Yeah, very small tidbit.
Yeah. Which the Bible verse shouldn't have as much weight as like Max sticking up for her and Max knowing about her family and all this other stuff.
No, they're not weighted equal, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is all of the you sticking up for her and calling her and whatever, being her best friend means 0.1% of her sanity.
Exactly.
And 99.9% is this Bible verse, and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, that isn't correct. And that's the thing, is like, part of it could be if you actually know the Bible, which I don't personally, because I don't believe in religion, is like, maybe you wouldn't have to look up those things or remember those things. You just know, like, oh, I know the Bible. I know Matthew 12:24.
Well, you can't assume though the player knows the Bible, like memorized the Bible.
No, and I don't think.
Yeah.
And I don't think they do. And I think you're just supposed to recognize like what's highlighted in some far off, distant world.
Right.
And you're supposed to be like, oh, I remember Matthew 11:12 was highlighted, so I'm going to choose that option. But yeah, I agree. It's like the weighting of how it is skewed. I
think it would have made more sense if instead of it just being like, hey, Matthew 16:14, it was the actual verse.
Yeah.
And they both maybe would have made sense, but one was specific to her experience in her life.
Yeah.
That even though, like, if you were just guessing, you're 50-50, but like, hey, maybe she had a poster or maybe she circled that in her Bible, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, this she knows about, and then that's why that's the right answer.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is they both do make sense. Like, we looked them up. We actually, the first time we played it through, I paused it there before picking the wrong answer, and we looked up what each one meant. And one was just like, the wicked will be punished kind of situation, and the other one is just like, I don't know, God saves.
But the fact that they don't actually give you that text means, like, I feel like they want you to fail. Like, she's supposed to die.
And that's what, I mean, we'll skip ahead and like, so you get to this final section, whether she lives or dies. You're in the principal's office. It's you, it's the teacher that made her cry, it's the security guard, it's the principal, and it's the student that's always been a dickhead.
I still don't know why that student was there if
he shouldn't have been.
Made the other choices too.
He shouldn't have. Well, he shouldn't
like,
have been
if you didn't rat him out and like you didn't tell any of the other people, he has no connection to Kate, the girl that killed herself right now.
No. He shouldn't be there at all. He shouldn't be there even if you did rat him out.
Because
him carrying a gun does not impact at all Kate's suicide.
Exactly. And I think he was just there because you could accuse one of the 3 people in the room, and so all 3 of them had to be in the room.
Yes, and that's what the big choice is. The big choice at the end of episode 2, besides Kate living or dying, is essentially you can put the blame of Kate's death on one of these 3 people. You can say that Mr. Jefferson, which is the teacher, like, they had an argument, which you saw an argument, but it didn't seem like an argument. You could accuse the security officer of harassing her, which you've seen multiple times, but unless you had that photo, which means you would have then had to...
negatively affect your relationship with Kate to begin with.
Yeah, you would have had to save that photo, and again, you probably wouldn't, because you'd rewind.
You probably wouldn't have it on you.
Yeah, it's like, then you can accuse him and you have proof, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
Or you can accuse the kid, because everyone has seen the viral video, and it's just like, this kid drugged her, I've talked to her, and then...
Plus he's done all this other stuff.
And
will continue to be bad.
And then the fourth option, which is hidden behind a wall, is if you accuse somebody without having proof, you get suspended. So what I believe happens is 1 of 4 people gets suspended. Either the security officer loses his job, the kid, which is what we both picked, gets suspended. If you pick the wrong person and without proof, Max gets suspended. Or I imagine there is a way to make the teacher gets suspended.
But based on the stats at the end of the game, that was not one of the choices. No, it was like 80%.
You can blame Mr. Jefferson. It was 2%.
No, 2% was somebody else. It was 17, 2, and 80. It was only 3 choices, I think.
Well, I don't think they count Max getting suspended.
Oh, okay.
I think it was security guard, Jefferson, and the kid.
Okay.
But anyway, so after you make that, you sign a piece of paper that essentially locks in your.
It's your way of saying, hey, this is set in stone.
Yeah, and then
even though you could rewind time and change that if you wanted to.
The ending happens, and I kind of want to talk about the ending scene. We talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like you said that Kate is meant to die. In the ending scene, to sum it up,
there's a montage.
There's a montage. It's a sad song. It's all these people who are looking sad. A memorial of Kate if she died.
Yeah.
And then your best friend basically texting you saying like, "Hey, sorry to hear about what happened," and then you being like, "We're gonna figure this shit out together," and then screen fade to black.
Yeah.
And go. If Kate lives, it's that same montage
of everyone looking sad.
But take out the memorial and Kate's in a hospital bed. Fine. And there's still a text that says, "Sorry about what happened today." And then we're going to figure it. I think the ending is the ending 99% is she should be dead.
Yeah.
And then there's the 1% of just there's that one scene in her slice.
Yeah. Because if she does live, there can't be lasting consequences to the story, because if people didn't choose correctly, then that means they can't play the last 3 episodes. Obviously, they had to make it so this doesn't really matter.
Yeah, she's written out at this point.
And not all those people would be sad. The bitchy girl wouldn't be sad, and not the entire community would not have reacted the same way if she never jumped.
Yes.
Than if they saw a girl murder herself in front of them. That's going to affect everybody across the board in a certain way, as they were in that montage, where, like I said, if they just saw her standing on the building for a second, they would move on with their lives.
Yeah, and then she walked down, and then she was safe, and
that's
everyone got
what
her
I'm saying.
help.
So, it definitely implies that she was. They assumed that she was going to die,
and I think that's part of the. We put so many pitfalls in this conversation that we expect you to hit one of them.
Yeah.
And since you can't rewind, that is what you're going to get. That is
her living is like an Easter egg. It's not supposed to happen.
I feel like that's what it is. It's probably like they made it where she was supposed to die, and there's people who tested it or played it, and it was just
I need an option to be able to save her.
There has got to be a way to save her.
Yeah.
And then they were just like,
okay, we're going to make it super hard then.
We're going to make it super hard.
Yeah.
There's an option to save her. You're probably going to have to look it up, or you're going to play it multiple times. And because we take away your rewind for a reason. Yeah. That once she dies, it's not only impactful, but then we can have this great ending.
Yeah.
Also, what I feel, and I kind of thought about this today, is that I feel like the ending, well, for one, it should have been changed around. Uh-huh. But I think it's also supposed to symbolize each person getting suspended. / that's
oh, that's why they're sad?
I imagine if Kate lived or whatever and you got the security guard suspended or lost his job,
that wouldn't make the bitchy girl sad though.
But no, but I'm saying it would make sense that the security guard then is he collapses into his wife's arms because he just lost his job. So that scene makes sense. Or if you get Mr. Jefferson fired, him having an argument with the principal and then driving off makes more sense because it's just oh, he just left school. He's done.
Right.
The kid getting suspended is the girl crying, and then he walks in with a big dumb smile on his face. That still doesn't make sense to anyone.
Yeah. Unless if he was glad that he got suspended.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know why that one girl that was bitchy the whole time was crying.
Yeah. Which would only, again, make sense if Kate
the girl
dies,
died in front of her.
And then it's just you're impacted because literally a girl died.
And you're kind of responsible because you were part of the club that made the video of her, and supposedly she made the video and she's the one that posted it.
Yes.
So she would feel guilty about that.
Yeah, which, again, makes sense why she said, but only if the character dies.
Yeah.
I
can't imagine they kept writing her into the story and she has more dialogue. Maybe one thing in the next episode or 2, but there's no way that the character of Kate, is supposed to exist past this point.
No. And I will say I've played 3, and now I can kind of talk about a little bit of 3.
All of 3?
Not all of 3.
Okay.
But it starts off, and your character the whole time, I'm playing the part where Kate died.
Uh-huh.
Every conversation is about Kate dying.
I'm sure it would be all about Kate trying to kill herself then. It would just be slightly different.
Because it's just like, like a girl's like shaken up and you're just like, I can't believe Kate died. And it's like, yeah I know, Kate died. And like, it's like every other word is like, died.
Right.
And it's like, oh, she's really broken up, Kate died, blah, blah. So it's just like, if you save her, I'm sure it's just like, oh, I can't believe she tried to kill herself. Like you said, like, I believe that's what it is. But it's like, I feel like they really expect you
It wouldn't have the same impact, that's for sure.
No. The music, especially like the sad, like...
Yeah, it seems like they're just all sad music, though.
Well, yeah, it's
even
indie,
indie
hipster music. Okay, so let's wrap up.
Okay.
I, having watched you play it, lost a little respect for game, not because we were making fun of it, but because I realized that second episode isn't as strong as I wanted it to be.
You saw it again with fresh eyes, knowing where it was going.
Yeah.
And like I think it is smart to backload these episodes rather than the Game of Thrones, where it's like, okay, action up front, boring for the rest of it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it one way, have it where the finale is gripping, where you want to play the next episode.
Yes.
Sure. And that's the way a story should build anyways.
Yes.
But yeah, there was some obvious attempts at padding, I think, throughout the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I would almost say, don't even play the first chapter, the first episode. Like, if you wanted somebody to play through episode 2, you could just sit down and let them play that.
Yeah.
They can figure out the time powers the first time you use it. You know how to use it. You don't have to go through that 2-hour tutorial of like answering questions in class.
No, and the thing with like the only reason you'd play the first one is if you really want to get like the background history.
No, it was fine that I did it, but I'm just saying, hey, if you have some buddies over or something, you want them to try it out, just let them start with episode 2.
Yeah, and then if they're hooked at the end of episode 2, they can go back and play the first one if they want. But yeah, I mean, like, just watching you play it, and granted we were joking and we weren't taking it serious, but like the ending still is great.
You can make fun of some superficial things without thinking the game's bad. So.
Yeah, but it's just like I lost a little bit because I agree. The second episode is very padded.
Yeah.
The 3 prove you have time powers. It's just
in a row. Like,
that's a little much. But I mean, I don't know. I'm still obviously going to keep playing it because I have the season pass, and I hear the 3rd episode ends again on another high, and I'll probably come back here and just be like, you got to play episode 3.
Yeah.
I'm still intrigued by some of the nuances. I can tell you right now that your plant dies because you watered it 2 episodes in a row.
That's enough.
That's the death. You're only supposed to water it 1 out of the 2 episodes.
All right.
I'm trying to think what other like minor choices you made, but I can't think of them.
Yeah. Most of them don't matter. And that's sort of a point I wanted to make about how I feel about the series as a whole, at least at this point, is it's like who, taking this great time power, who would be the least interesting person to have this? And the answer is a teenage girl that only cares about teenage girl stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it would be awesome if, like, a detective had this power. Or somebody that would use it to have some sort of real cause and effect, not to avoid the clumsiness of adolescence.
Yeah.
Even if this was her taking upon herself to solve Rachel's disappearance, that would be more interesting to me
than going through being a teenager.
Then just going through the stupidness and the anxiety of their non-problems.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's a character that you have to like because you're controlling and it's the main character, but at the same time, I have no connection to Max.
Right.
She's annoying. She says stupid things. She's way too teenage angsty for, like, being a probably fine student that gets, like, A's and B's and has loving parents. Like, it would almost be better if you played as Chloe, because then at least you have like
you're like a strong, driven character that you would believe could stand up to people or do these other things.
Yeah.
If they change her, if they change Max over the series, then that would be a positive thing. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like she's going to be the same Max she was in episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, 3 episodes in, which is more than halfway, and she is the same character.
Yeah.
She doesn't take it upon herself to, like, I'm going to be a better person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Final verdict, I would still... I'm torn now. I still like it.
Well, it's not a final verdict.
No.
It's just...
First 2 episodes, I would almost say now it's a pass.
For me...
2 episodes, I would say that there's better games.
I had no problem playing it.
Yeah.
But for me, there wasn't enough to buy it myself. I'm not going to buy it and go play through with my own decisions. I mean, I already made my own decisions, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, I got to find out what happens in episode 5.
Yeah.
Like, there was some interesting things. There's some good things they do that other choice-based games don't. But there wasn't enough here because the overall subject matter doesn't grab me, and because there is some padding, and I mean, and I've already played it, so I don't need to play it again. But I don't know. It just, I'm not gonna buy it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like I said, I think
unless if like 3 gets better than 2, and then 4 is better than 3, and so on.
And 5's the best of the world.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I agree. I think it does some interesting things. I definitely think there's more. The choices have almost more payoff than in some of the other choice-based games.
Even if they're smaller.
Yeah. And I think that's the key is that the small minor choices you feel still have some impact. Maybe it doesn't actually impact the story. But like I'm still intrigued, about some of the major ones. Like, what if I would have kept proof of David harassing Kate and then presented that?
Yeah.
Like, how does that change 3, 4, and 5?
And I think the best way that you can play it for yourself would be to just play it through it.
Yeah.
Don't look it up. Don't do anything. Because the the mystery of, hey, what if I did something different is going to make the game so much better than the second you look something up and you find out it doesn't matter, or you had to do something crazy and ridiculous that didn't make any logical sense to get one little minor, screenshot different. That's when it sort of breaks down. So I think if you just want to play it to enjoy it, don't look it up. I mean, it's fine if you want Caitlin to play through and make her own decisions. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't, like, the second I started looking up things for Game of Thrones, really made it hard to get back to enjoyable
I agree. And I think
me.
that's the thing, is just playing it through once and then just leaving it.
Yeah.
And then
just think about, oh man, what if I would have done this?
Yeah, I wonder how the story would have been different.
Maybe if I didn't water my plant. But you didn't water it and it died, right?
No, I watered it both days as well.
Oh, okay.
And that's why it dies.
Okay.
And then the next episode, you go to the plant and she goes.
But once again, don't give me a prompt to. And also, don't have your mom say, hey, water the plant, but not too much, after I've already watered it that second day. You got to tell me that before I start watering. I got to know the rules to this game before you throw me in the middle of it.
I mean, I think that's going to be the most impactful decision.
It's got to be. Because obviously, at some point, you're going to need oxygen. You're going to be trapped in that room, and there's not going to be oxygen, but the plant's going to be dead, so you die.
Yeah. All right, so this was a really long episode, guys.
Sure was.
We had a lot to say about Massive Chalice. That went longer than normal, and then I'm
glad we talked about it, though.
Yeah, I like Massive Chalice. It's a great game.
I'm going to go play it right now.
But so we will be back next week with probably a regular episode. Keep sending us Twitter games that you want us to play. We will try and do one of those, maybe just one as opposed to 2. Depending on what the game we pick.
And we're not going to do this very often because it's kind of a big ordeal. So
once a month if anything, because obviously we need time to play through it and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
But we already gave the ending stuff earlier, so we will see you next episode.
Yep. See you guys.
Peace.